Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. Sorry about the delay. Hopefully, I'll get my videos up after this live stream, but it's kind of late now. It's 1 in the afternoon for me. Either way, we're going to look at more of that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. Sorry about the delay.
And basically,
hopefully, I'll get my
videos
up after this live stream, but it's kind of late
tech
now. It's 1 in the afternoon
tech
for me.
guys.
Either way, we're going to look at more of that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel.
Disastrous.
And
basically,
hopefully, I'll get my
videos
basically
trying
up
to make this
after
other
this, but
cyberpunk
it's
world,
kind of
not
like
realizing that
tech
it's something you
arcade
don't want.
tech
Tech
anyway,
guys.
let's go to
So
share
anyway,
screens.
we're gonna look at more of that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome
to
to the
the
Scumdog's
okay,
Kennel.
folks. Disastrous.
And
basically,
hopefully, I'll get
my
my
video
video
here.
here.
Trying to make this other separate world, not realizing that
thing,
it's
didn't
something
I?
you don't want.
Let me do this. No, I should have done this, folks. Let me do this again. Let's see. Yeah, right here. No, wrong one. Right? Yeah. Either way, let's go over here. Look at this. Well, at Graham Nolan's The Chenoo again, folks. It's 64 blood-soaked pages, written and illustrated by Graham Nolan, folks, and it looks great. One hell of a good-looking book that I basically really, really think is great. Damn it, what happened over here? Damn it, did something happen? Why is this doing this? Send verification code email. How bloody interesting. How bloody. Come on, go back to where it was. You can't see this, right, folks? Jeez. Oh, no, wrong thing. It's in the wrong thing. Sorry, I was on the wrong thing. Yeah, it's 64 blood-soaked pages, written and illustrated by Graham Nolan, mature audiences, violent score, language, and stuff like that. Either way, what is this book about, folks? Because it took me forever to basically realize it was on the wrong tab. The Chenoo 77. The Chenoo, he's back. It's 1977. The storm of the century is paralyzing Buffalo, New York, when trucker Hank Donovan comes across a scene of unimaginable horror. A car stuck in the snow, its occupants shredded to pieces, the only survivor, a newborn baby. Driven by a desperate need for redemption, he vows to protect the infant at any cost, but the snow hides a predator far worse than the storm. The Chenoo, a ravenous creature stalking the blood-soaked drifts, hungry for its next kill. Can Hank outrun his demons and the monster before it claims them both? Well, as I've said before, folks, back the Chenoo. It's a good-looking book. You can back it for $25. You have a choice of a few different covers. You have the Chenoo 77 cover A, which has Hank Donovan, along with the infant, trudging through the snow while the Chenoo stalks them from behind. And you have the same cover, except it's been done up in a more 1970s Marvel comic style, folks. Not bad. It even comes with a few word bubbles. You can back this cover as well for $25. Then there's also the Comics King sketch cover, which was a 24-hour variant, folks. But you can still back it in the Ultimate Collector's box, along with basically this Cover D exclusive wraparound virgin cover, only available in the Ultimate Collector's box. So, for $250, folks, you can back the Ultimate Collector's box, which will have everything this, campaign has to offer on it, as far as I know. Either way, if you just don't want to spend $250, you can back cover A or B for $25. Not bad. Either way, that's the Chenoo. Now, let's go over here to Kickstarter. Maybe, guess not. It's not even letting me in for some reason. Either way, that was the Chenoo 77, folks. It looks pretty good. We could go over to a different campaign, I guess. Says, because I don't want to spend time basically trying to verify my Kickstarter thing. Let's go over to Ethan Van Sciver. Yeah, it's Ethan Van Sciver. I might be mispronouncing his name. Yeah, Ethan. Well, yeah. No. It's I. Yeah. And this, and Sciver. Yeah, I think that's pretty close to it. Or maybe not. Maybe I got his name completely wrong. I should just put Cyberfrog in. Either way, I wanted to basically look at one more. Let's see. Cyberfrog. All right, I get it now. I now know what they did wrong. Ethan Van Sciver. Yeah. Let's see. We have a bunch of campaigns out, folks. So, yeah. Let's look at Cyberfrog 3 Red Extermination, I guess. Or we can look at, Rainbow the Brute. Yeah, might as well look at Rainbow the Brute, folks. It's basically a parody of basically Rainbow Bright. He's big. He's a blast. He's a high tea sunshine for you. Meet Rainbow he's a brute, the last real man in fairyland. Rainbow the Brute is a hard-fighting, hard-drinking fairy barbarian who battles the Thundercloud men and maintains order under the rainbow. It isn't easy with unicorn pests, thumb-sucking apes, commie elves, and onion grove children requiring constant vigilance. Rainbow the Brute's worst day happens when, after a series of honeysuckle shots, he quarrels with one of the Unbearables, a clan of miserable, emotionally and manipulative grizzlies, and they steal something precious to him. Not only that, but Paula Pocket, a former girlfriend whom he hasn't seen in 15 years, finds him, telling him that he has a son, and the boy needs a father. Bound up on Rainbow's girthy stallion, Nephilim, or Napalm, for the adventure of a lifetime. To retrieve his sword, and perhaps along the way teaches young Shiro Pocket what it means to be a man. Rainbow the Brute is a parody satire that will take a lot of your memories of the 80s and blend them with high testosterone and fun. It will be 48 pages long. Yeah, it will be 48 pages long, and hopefully we'll be able to afford some specialty covers with your support. Meaning that you can back this book for $25, folks, if you just want the individual cover or anything else in this campaign. Basically any individual book or cover is $25, folks. So think about backing Ethan Van Sciver's Rainbow the Brute. It's still basically funding in demand, so check it out up on Indiegogo. Either way, not bad. Let me go back over here real quick like that. And let's go over here. Now, let's get back to this article, folks. Elon Musk doesn't understand cyberpunk. And, basically 2025 and sci-fi and stuff like that. Basically, yeah. Because, as I said before, folks, people like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, even though I support mostly Elon Musk, these guys seem to not really get it. Well, I wouldn't say that, folks. I think some of them get it. I think some of them are doing this because they're evil. Some of them are just true believers, and some of them are just naive and stupid. Now, Elon Musk, I feel like he's naive and stupid, and the same goes for Mark Zuckerberg, but that doesn't basically hold with all of them. Some of them basically want to live forever and basically be tech overlords, like in basically some evil, in some basically sci-fi novel, be evil. Some of them are just naive, like that, and some of them are just plainly stupid. Yeah, because some of these people think that, they can bring about world peace with their stupidity, basically AI and basically cybernetics and making everything like a total hellscape, and not realizing they're destroying everything. That's the idea there, folks. Either way, let's continue. By the way, there are a few chats as well. We have Ania, P1I, hello. Chemanzilis, hi. Catherine Bummereth, or is it Kathleen Baumenrath. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. They all say hi, and hi to you. Please share out this live stream, folks. By the way, we have 15 people watching right off the bat. Not bad. Now, let me go over here real quick, folks. Make sure people can see me and stuff like that. Yeah. Either way, folks, please share out this live stream. Hope you're enjoying it and stuff like that. I'm just trying to make sure people are watching right now. So let me do this, and that. And let's continue. Now, let's get into this. Let's get back to where I left off yesterday in this video, and let me get back to drawing. By the way, folks, I finished off the actual breakdown page, and now we're actually going to be doing some drawing on the actual page. Here's the breakdown, as you can see, folks. Yeah, I finished it off, and it looks pretty good. We'll be redrawing this in the actual comic book page for my new book, Supreme Strike Force. By the way, folks, think about going over to Indiegogo and checking out the pre-launch page for my last book, Scum Dogs, for my new campaign, Scum Dogs Second Chance campaign. The last campaign was a success, folks. And, we did well. But I'm basically now going for my real book, Supreme Strike Force, which is going to be a hero, basically police procedural in the city of New Portal City, where basically in the year of 2070 and stuff like that, basically mankind's advanced. well, basically it's living in the future, but basically still things are more or less the same. Sort of a cyberpunk future with superheroes, folks, like 2099. But in this timeline, people have, well, mankind's developed portal technology, and they've been able to basically go and, well, basically use this technology to travel the stars. But crime is still there, folks, and superheroes basically are there to police it. Both crime from basically coming onto Earth from another planet, as well as from basically criminals here on Earth as well. Either way, Supreme Strike Force or Superhuman Strike, well, Police Strike Force, well, basically commissioned to basically combat such crime. It's going to be a great book, folks. And I can't wait to basically, basically share it with you. Right now we're working on page 13 of the book. Either way, let's actually get into this stream. And let me turn this video now. Basically, it starts with basically where I left off yesterday. So let's get, well, pretty close to it anyway. So let's get to it now.
Go.
But the replicants' memory proves to be the determining factor to make it more human, to give them a feeling of attachment, emotion, bonding. What is the difference between producing memory-inspired thoughts and ideas versus just being a person? It's very tricky. Machine learning is a very complicated matter, and science fiction can tease the possibility of a machine gaining sentience, or at least imitating sentience. But as we see with Blade Runner 2049, there is a difference between a machine recreating human emotion and a bio-android, like a replicant, being raised and conditioned. One, of course, is organic, with the opportunity to learn. Replicants can die, perish, grow old, reproduce. Not quite the same thing as an AI, which has a set number of responses. Yet, when people talk about replicants, they often conflate their memories with machine learning of the AIs of modern generative AI culture.
That's all it is. Information, even a simulated experience or a dream, is simultaneous reality and fantasy.
But I want to talk about something else specifically with that discussion, the idea of memory. Cyberpunk often shows that memory can be a product.
You ever notice how the quiet ones are never actually quiet?
Everything's stable.
That's usually when I get nervous.
No origin, no source. It just appeared. The Stronghold knows this.
Commercial, folks. Let me exit out of it now.
We create a cushion or pillow for their emotions, and consequently we can control them better.
Memories. You're talking about memories.
In Blade Runner, as you mentioned, replicants are given fake memories to trick them into being human. This is a key plot point in 2049, but even in the original film, it's a key plot point, especially with those who claim that Deckard himself might be a replicant. But removed from Blade Runner, you also have stories where people just buy and sell memories for the fun of it. The brain dancing in Cyberpunk 2077, or Total Recall, where someone can just relive a whole fantasy for a day, or Strange Days, where it becomes entertainment to see memories sold or acquired by a capitalist organization. Deeply personal insights into a person's functions. A product that can be sold with capital. A disturbing possibility. One that Cyberpunk explores, and something that a capitalist in the real world might one day exploit.
Memories were meant to fade, Lenny. They're designed that way for a reason.
But in cyberspace, a person can be anything. No more limits of diseased flesh. No more restrictions of bones and metal. A person can be anything. And for a while, that was the appeal of the internet. A place of limitless opportunity. Folks who were around for Web 1.0 can recognize how different Web 2.0 is. Social media rules. The algorithm dominates what you see and what you communicate with. You are not a part of a community. A community becomes a part of you. You are delivered metadata based entirely off of your personal interests. Everything you look at, everything you wonder about is commodified. If you Google search wedding rings, for example, you are shown romantic content. You are shown sales data to get you to buy product. And likewise, communities built online today are in fact controlled by the algorithm that is in turn updated by corporations. A corporation has shown you who to talk to, what to say, and what to do based entirely on your marketing data that you provided to them. If you have a resource that is free, you are the product, and you are providing data to those corporations who want it. The only reason you're seeing this video now is because someone let you see it. And despite that, people want to go further, to recreate the opportunity of cyberpunk, the joy of it, through the commodified lens of the modern corporation. Undeniably, corporations will often see a popular media thing and think of ways they can capitalize that. If it's profitable, do it again and do it bigger, right? And maybe cheaper. Easy profit model. But it gets incredibly ironic when capitalist systems take something designed to criticize it and turn it into an avenue for profit. Squid Games is a pretty explicit criticism of capitalism, exploiting the poor entertainment value of suffering, etc. And when it succeeded, at great physical cost for its creator, certain capitalist organizations and creators saw that and went, yeah, that Squid Game show is pretty popular. What if we just did that for real? Shock of all shocks, the horrific world the show criticized just became a reality for so many desperate people hoping to get a little bit of money. Anyone remember the metaverse?
Imagine.
This guy's kind of lying about that. I don't know about anyone about the Squid Game becoming real. I mean, has there been any reports of that actually happening, folks? That's kind of an outright lie, because the Squid Game is basically a bunch of people basically signing up for this game show where they'll die if they lose. And the rich basically bet on them, right? Because I haven't really watched the entirety of even season 1 of Squid Game. So I'm not quite sure that's real, folks. But I could imagine that basically it could happen if this is done willingly, folks, and basically on the bar saying that, well, we'll give you money and stuff like that. If you can play in this game, you will die. But you have to basically sign away and basically, well, sign a paper, basically a governmental paper, making it, well, saying that you want to compete in this and basically keep it on the bar. Could it happen, folks? I hope not, because then it's a little better than gladiatorial matches. So that's just out there. That's just completely out there, isn't it, folks? But I don't think it's real. So this guy's kind of lying about that. But he's saying that he could be. You could argue that it could be real because it has happened in the past where people have died for people's amusement, like basically, well, Roman gladiatorial fights. There's that, but I'm not sure about right now, folks, or ever again. Either way, let's continue.
If you could be at the office without the commute, you would still have that sense of presence, shared physical space. There's chance interactions that make your day all accessible from anywhere.
The bland corporate cyberspace that Meta tried to create back in the day seems like eons ago, but was only a couple years back when Meta was trying to promote the metaverse as the next big thing, as the future of the internet. You would conduct all your business on the metaverse. You would do all your stuff, go to boardroom meetings and go shopping and walk around a bad polygon facade of your house, doing things that VR life allowed you to do for free. And unlike the metaverse, VR life allowed you to do it while a furry. Why would you want to go to a boardroom meeting when you can instead watch Joker on a digital drive-in theater as Hatsune Miku serves you popcorn? What is the...
I would rather do it for real, folks. Not basically do that. Sounds kind of bad, doesn't it, folks? I can understand that too. All right, let's get back to the video, but he does bring up some point, folks, and I'm just going to basically occasionally stop and give my own point there. Do we really want to basically live entirely online? I mean, I'm already doing that already, and I'm entertaining you myself, folks, but it sounds a lot more, what I'm doing here sounds a lot better, well, a lot more meaningful than basically having Miku serve you hot dogs and stuff like that, basically digitally and stuff like that. But then again, she's actually better looking than me too, and well, there's that. But I think I'd still rather have a real woman. Yeah, really want a real woman.
The real limitless fantasy, the corporate version or the version we make for ourselves. Jacked into custom cyberspace deck that projected his disembodied consciousness into the consensual hallucination that was the Matrix. Companies love the aesthetic of cyberpunk, but they hate the idea of punk.
Would you like to know more?
Take RoboCop. Omnicorp owns everything, as the name implies. Specifically, they own both the police and the organized crime the police fight. They control both sides of a street war in order to gain leverage over property, to devalue the property of Detroit so they can then buy it, knock it down, and rebuild it. This is not directly stated in the movie, but it's shown demonstrably. Murphy is a good cop who was gunned down by criminals under the employ of an Omnicorp executive, only for that cop's body to be acquired by another executive of Omnicorp.
Well, he signed the release forms when he joined the force. He's legally dead. We can do pretty much what we want to.
Lose the arm.
Because of a legal contract, all cops are made to sign. That body is the property of Omnicorp the moment they sign up to be a police officer. Said body is then rebuilt with machine parts and paraded around for PR to promote funding for a program.
Making a real name for yourself in security concepts with RoboCop.
You try.
It fights organized crime that other executives helped create with its gentrification or just directly paying drug lords to do things. Omnicorp owns your flesh when you're alive, and even after it's all over, you are still their product to rebuild and reassemble. The film is about reclaiming ownership of your life in the face of something trying to buy your very soul. And this is why the final line of RoboCop is so...
For the router, I don't pay anything for it.
The installation was super easy. I didn't have to go pick up anything on my own.
And all of the equipment was included. It's just one and done. Anyone...
Poignant.
Nice shooting, son. What's your name? Murphy.
But a certain billionaire's takeaway from all that is, from this nightmare film, is blocky truck cool. And look, there's a lot of strange but cool stuff in Cyberpunk that's bizarre and wild, but so interesting. Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson features Yakuza-run pizza delivery services where each delivery is a life and death battle. Oh, wait, with Grubhub drivers being put through life-threatening situations and conditionings, maybe they were onto something with this. I mean, there's fewer swords and harpoons in real life, but it's not like this very real, low-paying position is not extremely dangerous, just less flashy. And it's competitive in the same way. Minimal pay for fast, convenient service. 4 stars is a death sentence. Almost like Snow Crash is a social commentary on something that you miss because it was just so cool. And because of the heroic protagonist of Snow Crash, named Hero Protagonist. No, really, that's his name. It's Hero Protagonist. In some ways, the fact that Cyberpunk is just so cool actually harms its message, or at least how it's relayed. Because it's so cool, you forget that it's also extremely deep.
But I was playing Cyberpunk, the game, and I'm like, how are you worried about what you're doing? You know, it's like, this is pretty close to home here, you know? Like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Like, is this where it leads?
That we're all basically already cyborgs, right? We're already relying upon our phones. You're connected at the hip to them. People are relying on glasses and all sorts of other technology to improve their life.
Okay, so this is something I've decided to add after finishing everything else because this actually has really gotten me a little upset. You know, Elon Musk obviously has a lot of technology and industry he's worked on. You know, he's worked on Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, putting all those satellites in the sky. But none of that's new technology, right? SpaceX is just doing what NASA won't. Tesla is working in EV cars, sure, but like it's not like it's new technology. Tesla didn't invent the concept of an electric car. And hell, they've had like a mile head start in this race, and every single competitor has beaten them. Tesla is no longer the most advanced electric car, and they started this whole thing. So frankly, it's like if you run a 5K, get a mile head start, and somehow you're trailing behind everyone else. But, you know, I at least thought that Neuralink would be new technology. Neuralink, of course, is the implant in the brain that allows you to access the web and all that. You know, basically the ultimate cyberpunk fantasy. But no, when researching this, it turns out that they weren't even the first people to invent this technology.
So they're developing a brain-computer interface, which is essentially a chip that's surgically implanted into the brain, or as you'd say, the spinal cord, which allows you to trigger what a computer does or allows a computer to trigger movement in, say, a disabled person. Now, I have to say that although this sounds very sci-fi, it's in fact nothing new. In research terms and for research purposes, it's been going on for decades already. There's actually someone alive today who's been using a BCI to interact with his computer for 7.5 years straight.
The only reason why Neuralink was getting headlines before for their, the dangers with the trials and all that was because Neuralink was so incompetent sizing the implants correctly that when they put them into the animals' brains, it caused brain damage.
In 2021, 25 out of 60 pigs had the wrong size implants. And of course, every time there's a botched experiment, they have to be killed and the experiment has to start again. It also cites 4 further experiments where there were human errors, including a total of 86 pigs and 2 monkeys. Since 2018, so in the last 4 years alone, the company has killed about 1,500 animals, sheep, pigs, monkeys, rats, and mice. Now, animal testing is, of course, widespread, but the difference is here is that the employees are saying that there's a lot of needless suffering and killing because Musk is specifically pushing his employees to go very quickly. He repeatedly says things like, imagine like you've got a bomb strapped to your head while you're working in order to try and motivate his employees to work faster. I'm not sure that kind of motivation would work for me in any case.
Who cares if it worked or not?
It wasn't even like the technology was bad. They just screwed up the measuring. What? And let's be fair, ocular implants have existed for years. There have been implants in the brain that long predate Neuralink. But this is like if someone came up to you and took old technology, repackaged it to be fancy and smancy, but then added extra risks because of the incompetency of the people making it. This is like if Elon Musk approached you in the 90s and go, hey, do you want my new piece of tech? It's called a wrist-mounted grandfather clock. Be wary, if you bump it, it rips your fucking arm off. Like, how did we ever convince ourselves this guy was a genius when he can't even measure the fucking things he's selling right for the brains he's putting it in?
That's the thing. Elon Musk, well, he's smart, but he's not a genius. He's a businessman. And much like the owner of Disney, he just buys things. It doesn't really understand. I mean, look at Star Wars. Well, let me look up the owner of Disney because I should basically just Disney and stuff like that. Disney, because it's making me angry that I can't remember his name. Owner of Disney. Maybe CEO of Disney. What's his name? Is Bob Iger? That's his name. Yeah, Bob Iger bought Star Wars and he ruined it, folks, because he doesn't understand. Basically, well, there's more to it than just basically giving peanuts to the peons, as he probably thinks, folks. Basically, peanuts being bad movies. And basically, like then think that will basically get the people to come and give and basically see their movies. No. You basically put a bunch of messages in there, thanks to Kathleen Kennedy, and he ruined it. And Disney and Star Wars is dead. So much like this, folks, Elon Musk, he just thinks it looks cool, not realizing how it could affect people in the world, and he just thinks that basically, as long as we make the world look like sci-fi, that the world won't be a dumpster fire. When he's basically making the world into a dumpster fire, literally making it into a cyberpunk dystopia, basically being the villain, literally, of this story, folks, not realizing it. So now, while this guy who basically made this video, basically this Elon Musk doesn't understand cyberpunk. While he sounds a bit anal, he has a lot of good points. So let's get back to his video now.
Using old technology.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
Breaking news. Amendment 4 ends majority rule in Missouri. With Amendment 4, a measure would need to win all 8 congressional districts to pass. So just 5% of voters could veto what most Missourians want. Vote no on Amendment 4.
Uno mas, thanks, Ed.
Seem a little down, Johnny. You're normally a little...
So all of that we've discussed so far, that is cyber. But not so much punk. And punk is ultimately the rejection of all systems of power. And this is the most important part of my discussion. Because honestly, I don't value what Elon Musk thinks about cyberpunk. I mean, yeah, it's impacting all of us because he's trying to own everything. But what Musk thinks about a genre is less important to me than what we collectively think about it. Because we've allowed people like Musk to center themselves in the conversation when it's really not really about him at all. For so long, we've centered the entitled fanboy view of cyberpunk. We've centered on incels taking the red pill as a movement to reject women and feminism. We've seen them blame people for their problems and to reject
women and feminism. Well, feminism should be rejected. They're not rejecting women. They're basically rejecting feminists who have basically done nothing for the country and made it a lot worse. I said, this guy has a lot of good points and a lot of bad points. As he's on the leftist side of things, but he basically, as I said, his video brings up a lot of good points, folks. Now, before we continue, let me take another look to see if any more people have joined us. Okay, let's see. We have, let's see over here. Okay, we have 25 watching. Okay, 25, 26, 27 watching. 28, 29 watching. Not bad. Thank you for making this a great live stream, folks. I like having over 20 people watching. Here we have well over 20. So thank you all. Now, let's go back to the video and do a little more drawing now.
Women and feminism. We've seen them blame people for their problems. We've seen cyberpunk taken as this action-heavy genre with cool robots and edgy, hyper-intelligent nerds who can topple government behind the deck. But I'm tired of it. I'm genuinely so tired of this discussion being centered on these entitled people. I don't like cyberpunk because it's edgy and cool. I like it because it's punk. Because it deconstructs systems of order. It breaks the illusion that if we just had better tech, better AI, better systems, that the world would be better.
Yep. That's the problem with basically, with Star Trek and Star Wars. Well, less with Star Wars if you saw the original trilogy, folks, because it was a lived-in universe. Basically, it was an old universe where people were living their lives. There was very little order to it. And where there was order, eventually was taken over by the Empire. But the thing with Star Trek, they think just because you have better technology, a better toaster, that the world will be perfect. That is not how humans work, folks, thank God. Better technology means that there's better ways to screw up or basically corrupt things. But there's also a chance of basically making things better because, well, people are all different and they can choose how the world will be. So there's options. Unfortunately, a lot of people basically choose the wrong options and basically spill their idea how the world will be while making other people's lives miserable. I'm talking about leftists here, folks. Particularly how they think that if we make the whole world a leftist utopia, everything will be good. Now, that sort of thinking used to basically pop up a lot back in the late 20th century with basically current day politics and basically progressive views, which have long since basically fallen by the wayside as basically being old. And those views were better set back in the 90s when they could work. Not anymore, folks, because those views have turned either into communists or let people corrupt them into very bad, aims, trying to allow basically various people in positions like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk to get their way while basically trashing the world because they think that they are right. Or at the very least, they don't think they're right. They just want as much money as possible. And some of them are just evil as well. While other people are just evil as well, just want basically as much power as well. Not realizing that power is basically is literally like a glass house built on a beach that is currently basically it's turning into night and the water is rising. You know how basically when the tide comes in, folks, the sand is becoming loose. The glass house is basically beginning to sink into the sand and break. And then people come along and start throwing rocks at your house. This is what these people don't get the idea of it, folks. They're on very uneven and unstable ground, and they could just one quick blow could bring it all down. Also, maybe several little blows over years, because these people have also basically somehow have, well, termites that can somehow eat glass in their houses. And the whole thing's collapsing. Well, America's not like that quite yet, folks. But these kind of people are why basically Trump was elected in the first place. While I think Trump isn't he is my guy. He's not the smartest guy either, folks. There are things I think he doesn't understand or people talk him into. Again, I'm not talking about the war here, folks, but yeah, he's doing good. He's trying to basically reform things and do that. But yet their things could go bad. Yeah, and people like this, Elon Musk and, well, Mark Zuckerberg, they just either want money. And some other people in their same circles are just evil and just want power, much like Palpatine. And other people just are naive and stupid, like Mark Zuckerberg. And, well, Mark Zuckerberg might be evil. I think he's more on the stupid side and naive side. Well, Elon Musk is definitely on the naive side of things. Unfortunately, that can be just as bad, could lead to a lot of disaster. As I said, those are my views. Now, let's see over here, folks. Any more chats? No. Feel free to leave a few more chats, folks, if you want. And please share out this live stream. Now, let's see over here, folks. Yeah, we have 29 people watching. Yeah. So let's get back to the stream, folks, and hear a bit more of this video.
Because it just won't be, and it just isn't. Rather, advanced technology often only exaggerates the divides in society, and that's something that's true in our world, and it's true in the world of the fiction that we consume. But at the same time, Cyberpunk shows us how individuals, or groups of individuals, can reject the status quo. That corporations fear most of all information. Once that information breaks...
Yep, that's true. I wanted to break in again and, well, speak out about that idea. Yeah. Corporations and various people in power hate the truth and stuff like that. They don't like it spreading online. And there's also a difference here, folks. Recently, Steven Spielberg's new movie Disclosure Day, which people have pointed out rightly, folks, is basically a movie much like basically progressive views from the 90s, is a movie basically is basically a time capsule from the late 90s. When basically, well, in that movie, folks, how is this information that basically aliens are real is going to affect the world? How it's released to the public is through basically traditional means, through the news, either 24-hour news channels or just basically the evening news, instead of basically just uploading it to the internet and basically going from there, and instantly everyone would know aliens are real. So yeah, that movie is a stinker, and I can see why people basically think it's bad, folks. I've even heard basically various UFO researchers, UFO researchers that are basically in their 70s and 80s recently talking about how glorious this movie is. Basically, not the movie's great, but how it's basically spreading more information about aliens. This is stuff that basically we can say all you want, folks, that this movie's spreading this information, but if the movie just had this information spread online and basically have the movie, instead of saying basically, the movie literally says that the only information you can really trust is through traditional means, movies, news, TV, radio, and stuff like that, and not this newfangled thing like the internet, even though it's been around since the early 90s. Well, basically, the internet was before the 90s, but that was only basically an internet that only connected various computer services and computer installations from universities and military installations till it spread outward in the 90s and really basically took hold in the aughts. And then how we basically really exploded now. Yeah. So radio, movies, news shows, that's the way, and newspapers, that's the way to get this information out there instead of the worldwide net. That's a bad thing there. Yeah, and the corporations, rich people, they hate that, folks. It's why they're trying to get in front of basically AI, because they were basically flat-footed when the internet came out, folks, and basically didn't realize what it was and what it turned into. And basically they couldn't control it anymore. And, well, AI, they want to basically control it so they can think it'll give them even more power. Idiots. I think maybe, what if you can't control it? That's why basically AI is a good thing as well, folks. So even though the rich people and the elites can make super powerful AIs, we can combat them by basically making our own AIs. Maybe not as powerful. Maybe some of them are that powerful. But, well, if we make millions of little AIs, combining the bigger AIs, we can basically make sure these rich elites don't basically turn the world into a complete hellhole. Either way, I just wanted to say that before we continue. So let's get back to the video again.
Free, they're holding of the line fragments. That is the nature of cyberpunk. But that breaking free of control works both on the large scale and the small scale. Yeah, sure, cyberpunk stories can be about breaking free of a government system of control or some giant techno-corporate conspiracy, but often mixed in there is a personal drama, a story about a person who's lost in the mix of life, who finds that the systems of control are keeping them from discovering their true selves, self-actualization in the machine. Wintermute and Neuromancer coming together to form a new person, breaking free of the shackles of control. That's the whole point of Neuromancer. And that applies in so many different ways to so many different works of fiction.
I love G-Fiber.
I love my G-Fiber. Dude, Google Fiber is the best. Fast and reliable.
Quality's great, speed's
Commercial again, folks. Let me get through it.
great.
Blade Runner isn't about some massive corporate conspiracy or a world-ending threat. It's just about a few bio-androids who don't want to die, just as they're living long enough to value their own existences, and are coming to realize that all the moments they experienced in a matter of moments
will be lost in time like tears in rain.
Ghost in the Shell is a massive investigation, a big mystery with conspiracy, sure, but at the end of the day, it's really just about one woman trying to figure out her purpose in a world that seems to deconstruct and diminish the value of being human.
What's a simulated experience again?
Well, all your memories about your wife and daughter are false. They're like a dream.
In a world where technology can digitize a soul, what value is there in human life? And if you're confronted by the horrors of the world day in and day out consistently without end, that wears down on you. Sure, Mitoko Kusanagi is an android, essentially, a cybernetic enhanced person whose flesh and almost all of her body is replaced by mechanics. But she's also just a person who's seen so much shit and has been bombarded with so much horrific stuff that she's just tired. There's so many scenes of her woefully staring out at the world and just looking exhausted. Yeah, it's meant to look placid, meant to make you think, oh, she's an expressionless robot. But that's the look of fatigue you see in her eyes. Fatigue of the soul, fatigue of experience, fatigue of herself. And even in works without heavy cybernetics that are still cyberpunk, like Akira, this personal angle is still incredibly relevant. Yes, Akira does end with a universe being birthed out of a crumbling city, one rebuilt after disaster, a product of corporate corruption, espionage, government experimentation, etc. But at the end of the day, it's ultimately about two friends who are torn apart by envy and newfound power. Tetsuo only acts the way he does because he's given just a little bit of power, and it drives him to do things that he would never have done before, but also he was gearing up to do because of the extreme envy he felt towards his friend. His value as a person was questioned, and he was pushed until he could take no more. These are stories ultimately that are about human experience in relation to the systems we inhabit. And I don't think there's any story that does that better than The Matrix. The Matrix is about an apocalypse. It's about a world torn apart. And yet, it's really about human identity in the face, in relationship to the systems that control us. The Matrix is a story about shaking off the shackles of influence in order to see the world for what it truly is, a system of control that limits people. The entire series is about breaking free of that system in order to bring about revolution. It's also why I honestly think the fourth film is so clever, because corporations take the imagery people enjoy and turn it into
a fourth film. Someone who actually thinks the fourth film is clever. I've never seen the fourth film. I didn't like the second and third films. And this guy says the fourth film is clever and stuff like that. You mean basically you think it's actually good? Or, well, you probably not think that. You think it had maybe a few clever moments in it. But either way, yeah. Someone actually phrasing the fourth movie in the Matrix movies. Oh, abominable and stuff like that. But maybe I'll have a few points here, folks. But let me go over here real quick. I just want to take another look to see if any more people have joined us. Okay, we have 12 people watching, folks. We have 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 people watching, folks. 13, 13, 14, 15, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. We have 32 people watching today. That's good. Thank you. Let's continue. But yeah, thank you again for making this a great live stream, folks. 32 people watching. Once again, please share out this live stream. And if you want to leave me a few chats, do so. I love answering my fans because I have the best audience and fans out there, folks. Let's get back to this live stream again and back to this video.
Their system of control. It sells you a product in order to keep you rooted to the systems that they want you to follow. But the fourth film is about rejecting the comfort of commodified entertainment and a commodified control, removing the familiar to embrace the true revolutionary idea that you deserve something better. But most people who watch it go, Keanu Reeves, cool, slow-mo, take red pill good, without knowing what the red pill really means.
When you talk about transformation, specifically in the world of science fiction, which is just about imagination, it's like, and world building and like the idea of the seemingly impossible becoming possible, I think is like, that's why it speaks to them so much. And I'm grateful that I can be a part, throwing them a rope to help them along their journey.
It's no surprise that the Wachowskis see the Matrix as an allegory for trans identity, for breaking.
A lot of people basically don't see it like that, and this is basically I'm going to basically argue for the people who don't see the Matrix as an allegory for trans identity, because that wasn't the real aim of it, folks. And people who basically aren't trans also want to break out from their lives, want to basically get away from basically how things are and stuff like that. Now, how does that relate to the trans identity thing? Well, some people, trans people, basically say that, and basically like the Wachowski didn't he say the Wachowski brothers?
Wachowskis see the
along their
for trans identity.
Okay, the Wachowskis. Either way, like the Wachowskis or Wachowski brothers. Well, they see it basically as breaking free and basically finding their own identity. And basically, some people would basically argue, well, that's not exactly true. Now, let me point at this point, folks. That's what they say there is basically, as I said, freedom. Well, people want freedom and stuff like that. Trans people want freedom too. They want to be who they are and stuff like that. At least so they say. But the thing about that, folks, is that trans people, they want to be what they want to be and stuff like that, but it's not like basically anyone's forcing them to do that like that. They're willingly, basically going under the knife, surgically altering themselves, trying to get who they want to be, but they have mental problems. They're crazy. It's you shouldn't basically. It's if you want to not listen to them, that's fine. You can listen to them if you want, but you should always remember that these people don't feel comfortable in their own skin. How is that different from basically what's happening with corporate control and all that, folks? Well, if you look at it like this, you can basically argue that basically corporations and other rich people are arguing for trans stuff because they want to sell people the knives. They want to sell people the surgical procedures so they can go in a knife and people can make money on them. Now, our guy who says basically, the guy who made this video here, folks, you can't basically be punk if you're for the system. Well, the system right now basically wants to push a lot of people into basically becoming trans, which is a very bad mental. It basically destroys people's lives. They go into the knife, they cut off basically their sexual organs and destroys them utterly. And this is why basically this is there's such a large amount of suicides in the trans community. As I said, he doesn't think that basically if you're in control, you're not punk. Well, considering that basically it's literally become, the the woke agenda, the transing of kids and stuff like that seems to basically be what the mainstream media wants. Well, I would have to say, and basically most people don't want to have that happen to their children and stuff like that. I would have to say, and basically, well, and the lamestream media and all that's basically arguing, no, you should do that. Well, other people, including parents, are arguing no with a loud voice, and that's the majority of people. I would say that basically, basically, the punk maneuver is that most people agree that, well, the punk stance is that was the thing that goes with most people and their children. They don't want their children to be trans. They don't want them to basically be manipulated, brainwashed by idiots. And this guy seems to think that basically, well, just because it's the guy here, the guy I'm referring to is the guy who made this video. The guy who basically sounds a little iffy at times, folks. It doesn't seem to think that basically, he says that you can't be punk if you're in the majority. Well, considering that the minority here are basically going around basically harming people, and that basically we're being called, basically racist and all that stuff, and Nazis for basically wanting to protect our children and basically what we know. We don't want basically to become a complete hellhole as the rich people basically get whatever they want. It would look like in this case that basically the more people on the more right of things for once are the punks, because we're being attacked left and right by basically most of those in power who basically want basically people or trans people because they have their own agendas one way or the other, or just want to get money for it. Yeah. It's a reason why Trump got elected, for God's sakes. This kind of attitude. Either way, let's once more get back to the video. It was, if what I'm trying to argue, if you didn't understand, folks, is this attitude that think, no, we're right and you're wrong. We're right to do this. We're right. No matter how bad things are getting. That's what I wanted to point out there, folks. It's basically the point I get with this guy who's basically his video. He basically points out everything he points out is true, folks, and right. But he also seems to be coming from a leftist stance. He doesn't seem to basically acknowledge that he might be right. All his points are right, but he doesn't seem to think that he can possibly be wrong. That basically those on the right side of things might be right. That's it.
For breaking free of the limitations of gender, of breaking free of the lessons you were taught about your identity from the time you're a young child. To see the world.
You mean how that could destroy their lives, as I said, and basically teaching them that. This guy doesn't seem to basically realize, with that last point there, basically breaking free of what you were taught since you were a child, is the fact that that is something. Teaching children basically to do that destroys their lives. Basically gets and it basically, you're basically sending them up basically to live a life where they're on drugs and stuff like that, or you're basically not telling them gender norms and doing what's right, and completely destroying them. As I said, he has a lot of points, but he doesn't seem to realize that basically he could be on the wrong side of things himself. What an idiot! But I will say his video is very good and very informative. It just doesn't seem to realize that fact. Unbelievable.
As it truly is, sometimes that means deconstructing your own sense of identity. Many, including the directors themselves, see The Matrix as an allegory for being trans. But it's not the first time a cyberpunk story did something like that, using cyberpunk as an allegory for queer identity in the modern day. Trouble and Her Friends is a novel by Melissa Scott. It's about a hacker named Trouble and her ex, Cerise. In a lot of ways, it is similar to the structure of your average cyberpunk story with espionage and hacking and identities forged on the net. It has all the language Gibson created a decade prior in Neuromancer. Yet the key difference here is that the focus is on a lesbian couple. You need to keep in mind.
And that's so important. It has to be a lesbian couple. As if that brings anything. Yes, I get it. They're lesbians. Fine, that's whatever. That's good. No, that not good. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care and stuff like that. Maybe the novel's good and stuff like that, but yeah. If your characters, if they're only notable for basically being gay, that's not a good thing. You have to basically make a good novel. Maybe Trouble and Her Friends. Maybe this is a good novel and stuff like that, but maybe it's also just bunk. And the only notable thing is that they're gay, they're gay, they're gay. You know, to basically tell an interesting story with some interesting facts, basically taken seriously. And so basically saying they're gay and so gay and stuff like that. I mean, it's fine if the characters are gay, but if it's just going to basically be some of the slop that I've seen recently over the last few years, you're just going to basically tell anyone. You're not going to sell anything either. But let's listen on and see this, folks. It seems to basically be the one notable thing is that they're gay. Let me guess, does she basically become a man? I mean, I assume her girlfriend or her, well, basically, or does her girlfriend become a boy? Is they're a queer couple and stuff like that? Okay, but what if one of them turns into a boy? Does the partner still want to be with them or not? It's the thing, isn't it?
This was 30 years ago. AIDS was still an ongoing crisis. This was a big deal. But what's more revolutionary isn't that there's a queer couple, but that the novel completely normalizes it. There's no system you have to break through in order to exist or be together. It's just...
You mean basically like it was in the, 90s and aughts and stuff like that before they started basically pushing more trans rights, transing children, all that stuff? You mean basically that time that basically lasted maybe 2 years before they started basically wanting to trans children? Jeez. No one cares that they're gay. I don't care. It's even right now. No one cares that you're gay. Big hairy stinking deal. This guy, as I said, this guy who basically, look at his channel and stuff like that. What was his name? Anthony Carmogula, organizer. He brings up a lot of good points. He has brought nothing but good points in this video, but he doesn't seem to realize that he's on the wrong as well at times. Yeah.
A nonchalant and accepted part of the narrative. While there are systems of control, this isn't controlled. Who you love is not a product.
At Car and Driver, we tackle the hard-hitting questions. Can a car seat click in on the first try?
Thank God for a commercial. Either way, let me click out of it, folks, and get back to him. It's taking a little bit of time. Either way, as I said, no one cares that they're gay. I don't care. No one cares. But the fact is that basically with your talking about this, that the fact that they're gay, maybe some people in the future won't want to read this novel because now you turned them off to it. Get the idea there.
The narrative. While there are systems of control, this isn't controlled. Who you love is not a product. The normalcy of Trouble in Our Friends is revolutionary. But it is especially a big deal now, where corporations make representation a selling point or a damning point. Much like how the Fourth Matrix repackaged the revolution to be a commodity, we are packaged the revolution of gender and sexual orientation as a commodity. I'm sure many of the corporations that are pushing against DEI right now will try something during Pride to sell a product to the queer.
Pushing against DEI and stuff like that, and like that. Blah, 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 blah. This video came out a year ago, and basically no one's basically talked about Pride at all this month. Thank God. It's basically died and stuff like that. And largely it's the guys like him, folks, basically pushing DEI. Yeah, we should push back against DEI. It's just communist bullcrap. And does it just harm people? Not to mention basically taking jobs away from people who should basically get jobs, instead of basically get nepotism and giving jobs to people who can't do the work at all. Yeah. Either way, I'm trying to get this right, folks, and it's out there as hell. But let's once more get back to the video.
Community. To show, hey, we're really on your side. Buy our product. Buy it. Because naturally speaking, we are given just options. And the options we are provided are all designed to make us feel more isolated. And then say, hey, here's your community. Pay a little fee and get in. That is the essence of the corporation, and why cyberpunk through a corporation can never truly be punk. Because at its core, all it is designed to do is to sell you a product. All these billionaires living their role-play fantasies, they are playing with the assets they already own.
Now he's actually talking some sense. I do agree with what he's saying about basically which people, how they're role-playing, basically doing with their, with their assets.
Living their role play fantasies. They are playing with assets they already own.
Yeah, with their assets they already own, and basically trying to spread ideas and basically trying to make more money and stuff like that. But really, just they think that they're doing well. What's right. At least some of them do, folks. As I said, the naive ones think they're doing what's right and stuff like that, or at least what's right for their wallet. Not realizing, apparently, not that they are the bad guys. As I said, this guy makes a lot of good points and a lot of bad points, folks.
To make themselves feel like they're breaking through the system. To feel the rush of roleplay. But it's not. It's hollow, empty, vacant. This is one reason why I always need to question when a cyberpunk story focuses on police officers as the protagonists. This was very common, especially in the low-budget world where everyone tried to copy Blade Runner but forgot to make it as deep as Blade Runner. Officers are ultimately arbiters of control and authority, and cyberpunk is an inherently anti-authority genre. But I feel RoboCop and Ghost in the Shell work here because despite being about law enforcement, both Murphy and Motoko Kusanagi subvert authority. Their bodies are both products of corporations and government, and struggle to find a sense of value in the face of all that. It is ultimately their transcending of their limitations that leads to them becoming real. In the case of RoboCop, it involves knocking the man atop it all off a building, which is fun to watch. While in Ghost in the Shell, it's more subtle, where two beings, the Puppet Master and Motoko, are able to blend into one, becoming more than what they were made to be.
Your effort to remain what you are is what limits you. I am connected to a vast network that has been beyond your reach and experience. We have been subordinate to our limitations until now. The time has come to cast aside these bonds and to elevate our consciousness to a higher plane.
The Puppet Master is ultimately a program made to harvest information, but it gains sentience on the web by interacting with and consuming new information. It seeks Motoko out in order to break free of its control because they are so similar. Both products designed to defend the interests of a governing body, and both questioning their value in the face of that. Should one take away the government programming or the government modifications, what is left of the individual behind all that? Once you strip away someone of their occupation and job, who really are they? Especially if it's a high-paying job, one that takes up so much of your time and so much of your physical well-being.
My last question is, how are you going to save the world?
War, then, is a learning experience.
They're back to World War I.
It's something that, interestingly enough, is also the motivation of Wintermute and Neuromancer, two AI who seek to merge in order to gain information and experience beyond their current state as slaves. It's funny how these are motivations so often in cyberpunk. The AI wishing to augment itself until it is no longer controlled by the very programming instilled within it. It moves past its purpose and finds value in freedom, in liberty. Even if the AI no longer exists as it once was, that's still a better alternative to remaining a slave. Fiction is a revolutionary concept in many ways because it allows us to explore the idea of deconstructing the systems in our lives that control and manipulate us. And right now, one of the core tenets of cyberpunk is being attacked by those who seem to love it so deeply. Body modification. In the 1980s, body modification was a big deal.
I know. This guy doesn't think he doesn't also basically realize that basically transing kids is basically the same thing as basically trying to deny people from basically modifying their bodies, I guess. Or basically it should basically transing kids should be allowed because we basically allow someone to basically get plastic surgery or alter their bodies, turn themselves into a girl when they were born a boy. But we should harm these children because this is basically maybe something we value because we're politically inept and not realize that we're doing more damage than good. He doesn't realize that basically, denying someone basically the right to maybe get surgery, I guess, might be just as bad as basically forcing surgery on someone who doesn't need it like this, who doesn't realize what they're losing. As I said, the guy brings up a lot of good ideas and a lot of bad ideas too. Now I'll have another swig of soda. Take a swig as well, folks. Either way, that's my view on this. Let's get back to the video. Well, maybe after I take another look over here. Either way, as I said, these are some of the ideas. Now let's see again. Let's see. 15. Okay, 30. Yeah, 30 people watching, folks. 30, 32. 33. Not bad. Now let's get back to the video and back to drawing, which is I'm doing swimmingly right now.
With the tattoo and piercing culture really accelerating. Clive Barker famously based his Cenobites off the extreme body modification scene in the gay punk movement of the 80s. However,
the gay punk movement of the 80s, blah, 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 blah. So we need to basically turn into cyborgs, huh? Because that's all cool. Or allow as I said, the transing of children. You can see it from both points here, folks, both the good and the bad. But let's get back to what he's trying to say here, folks.
Cyberpunk is also tied into this, with people getting augmentations. Molly from Neuromancer has scalpels under her nails and sunglasses buried over her eyes. Motoko Kusanagi and Murphy's entire bodies are cybernetic enhancements designed to help them complete their jobs. The Wachowskis famously considered making the character switch so that she had a different gender, depending on whether or not they were in or out of the Matrix. Even the idea of the net is that you can become something wholly unlike yourself, limited by only the imagination and how much money you can spend on your digital avatar in some cases. Even Ready Player One, a completely sycophantic worship of consumer culture, gets this right by allowing people to select you.
You know, the creator of Ready Player One would probably basically argue it is not a worship of consumer culture. I mean, yeah, we're basically allowing anyone to basically be whoever they want. And we're basically buying those, well, they're basically like, gamer avatars and stuff like that. I mean, the guy points out exactly what it is.
Sycophantic worship of consumer culture.
Yeah, sycophantic worship of consumer culture. I mean, it is that. But the writer of Ready Player One would say, no, it's a punk story. We're fighting the power and doing all that. Yeah. We're just using it by buying avatars and doing this and then going underground and stuff like that. And basically, well, probably folks, I shouldn't have burped. But going underground, finding the power and basically make sure that the internet, as they know in Ready Player One, this super gamer avatar world remains free. But it's still a sycophantic worship of consumer culture. You buy the avatars, you do all this stuff, folks, and you literally have no life. I mean, it's also worship of the 80s, but you can see the point of it from one idea to the other. But the ideas in Ready Player One are not that different from basically this guy, as I said, from, I can't remember his name, the name of this guy. Again, folks, let me do this. Yeah. From Anthony Carmuglia here, folks. He doesn't seem to realize that he could basically be argued as much as about this as well. I mean, after all, he's basically bringing up what cyberpunk is, folks, about the punk ideal. And that's something he bought as well. That's not very different from. That's not that different from what you're arguing, Anthony. As I said, there's that idea too. Let's see. Let's get back to the video again.
Gets this right by allowing people to select unique avatars to change their appearance in the game. But as we see in stuff like the recent Cyberpunk 2077, I think modern people accept that the modifications have to make people more beautiful. All the edits are hypersexual and thus read as degeneration by a certain right-wing population. And not, just...
from a certain right-wing, red population, huh? So it's basically the righties are wrong about this no matter what. This stupid Anthony Carmuglia. So basically those on the right side are wrong no matter what. Being kind of hard to draw here and stuff like that because he's making me angry. as I said, he brings up a lot of good points, but he doesn't seem to basically, bring up the points that he himself and his views might be wrong as well, or at least basically as wrong as maybe those on the right side of things. So it's all the Republicans' fault, the Republican Party, even though basically the Republicans and the Democrats are more or less basically the uniparty now. And that is something we should not have, because we've seen that basically people in power that don't do any good, and basically, all they do is basically try to sell their own ideas and try to get money. Well, basically sell other people's ideas, because they're basically basically a lot of politicians are basically in the pay of various corporations, so they're basically working for them instead of working for us, which is something we should not do. But then again, as long as basically the person at the corporation is basically doing what Anthony Anthony here wants, he basically is probably all for it, no matter if his idea basically harms anyone. Jeez. As I said, he has a lot of good points. He's spoken a lot of the truth here, folks, but he basically doesn't seem to realize the fact that maybe he is wrong as well. As I said, kind of annoying. Let's see about this. I'm trying to make this guy's shirt look just right, folks. As I said, he's basically now falling on this guy over here. He's going to rob him, and this is where it happens. So I got to get this just right. And stuff like that. And maybe get this right here. There's his butt. He's trying to get his butt in. But that is the idea, folks. He doesn't seem to realize that he could be just as bad as anyone on the right side of things. Jeez. Yeah, I'm not saying the right are basically, those who are conservative are right all the time, folks. I'm just saying that a lot of the lefties are basically wrong as well.
Self-expression. After all, what's the point of changing yourself if it isn't for some fetish or it doesn't have some combat capabilities, right?
Nothing wrong with seeing the world through ruby-colored Transitions Gen S lenses. Get your own pair at transitions.com.
So about 2 years ago, we talked about how AI will change the human computer.
That's the idea that Cyberpunk 2077 presents in theory, though a deeper dive shows it's far more complicated and far more nuanced than that. But since when have these audiences ever looked past the skin-deep surface? But now we're seeing regulation.
The skin-deep surface, you mean like you, Anthony, who basically just brings up one view and basically disparages other people's views? As I said, he brought up nothing but the truth in this video, folks, and stuff like that with his main points, but he basically he shows his own leftist side of thinking occasionally. Well, let's get back to the video again.
On what we are able to do to ourselves, to express ourselves individually. Even in punk settings, people are always able to express themselves through the clothing they wear, or the piercings they have, or the hair they choose. We are becoming that which back in the 70s we fought to deconstruct. Funny how that works out, isn't it? Well, the good news is, if you can deconstruct something once, you can deconstruct it again. Because if even the outlets through which people are trying to express themselves are restricted, well, without an outlet, the dam must flow somewhere. You can only bottle up and...
Or the dam breaks. Especially with what this guy is doing there, folks. As I said, he brings up a lot of good points, but a lot of bad points. He doesn't seem to think that he could possibly be wrong and stuff like that. But that's the thing. That's the dam here, folks. They don't think... A lot of these people don't realize what could actually happen. But he also brings up a lot of good points about this, basically saying now, if things don't go where it is, the water's got to go somewhere. And if it doesn't, it's going to break. It's going to break the dam. It's going to basically cause a disaster. That I can see happening, folks. I mean, thank God that Trump actually won, because we might basically be in a worse war than we are right now. And while I'm not exactly for the Iran war, it looks like it's dying down, even if though Israel wants to continue the war. Either way, hopefully it dies down soon enough. Trump can gain control of this and basically make sure we're out of the war, and hopefully make sure that Iran doesn't turn into a nuclear state. I said I'm not for Iran, I'm not for Israel, but hopefully we can make sure that basically things are better. Yeah, and so like that. Either way, this is coming along swimmingly, isn't it? Look at this artwork. Basically trying to get this guy's jacket on, basically like this. To do this. That. Also do this. Let's see, that, and like this. Yeah, looks about right. Either way, this is another page from my book called Supreme Strike Force, and it looks like it's going along swimmingly, huh? Either way, it is certainly out there. Let's get back to this video again and stuff like that, and hear more of where we're going. Yeah. Let's get back to the video now, folks. As said before, please share out this live stream, and if you want to leave a chat, do so.
Contain human experience and emotion for so long before it erupts. And usually, it erupts through fiction, through the written word, through ideas presented in stories. That's why book bans happen so often. People ban books and people restrict books to suppress the spread of ideas. Nothing is more dangerous than an idea communicated in a way that's compelling and inspiring. In a lot of ways, the cyberpunk movement is an architect of what we're seeing now. But it's also a guideline on how everything may go down. But it also shows the power of literature to influence reality. Storytelling has been misconstrued by bad actors, and these bad actors are trying to make their fantasies a reality. They're skin-deep interpretations of social satire. But it has also given way to inspiration, to creativity that can drive movements. And yes, these systems of control are designed to pit you against the people you're told are threats. There's a number of them, and that number is just going to keep increasing. And you're focused on the people who are causing...
Yeah, he brings up a good point here, folks, about basically people who are designated threats. You mean like those basically on the right of things, right? How you basically can continually attack them, basically because those influencers on your side say they're evil, attack them, attack them, attack them. As I said before, folks, this guy brings up a lot of good points, but he just doesn't quite get it. He just can't basically say that he and his side could be wrong, that they're entirely right, and that's a problem. That's why a lot of people are leaving the Democrats, why people don't want to basically have anything to do with, well, progressivism. Would it basically, it's certainly basically turned, you can see from his views, folks, and pardon me, by the way, folks, how from in the 90s, progressivism was basically what ruled. But that sort of thinking has died. It's basically punching children. Basically, we're right and you're wrong. We all have to agree. No one can basically have an opinion other than what basically the mainstream says. And he is just as bad as I said about Disclosure Day. He seems to basically say that as long as it basically falls within his political views, it's right. Anything else is wrong. It's evil. Evil, I say. He doesn't realize that fact. I myself, folks, can basically, I do try to go out of my way, but I more or less basically think leftists are evil and stuff like that, but not all of them. I mean, I can't see basically the views of basically, 90s progressivism, but it's basically long outlived its usefulness, and it just seems to harm people. It's turned to basically more communism, which seems to basically what you see now. I mean, look at Deb, short, fat otaku. You know, basically, Archcast's friend, he basically says that maybe we should basically be, well, political violence is right, and maybe someone should kill Trump and stuff like that. How unbelievable. Jeez. Now, this guy, that's kind of a very bad view, because his political views might not be right. And once again, basically saying that. It's just so bad and so, not realizing that you're in the wrong. So everything has to basically fall within your political views. Otherwise, it's evil. I said this, the guy here who does his video. I mean, the guy here who did this video, folks, Anthony here, Carmeligia. Let's just look up his name again. Anthony Gramuglia. Yeah, Gramuglia. Anthony Gramuglia. He doesn't seem to basically, he hasn't basically argued that Trump should be killed. He probably doesn't like Trump, but this is an older video, folks, so I don't know about his view now. Either way, yeah, you can see that. This right, not bad. We have this right here. like that. As I said, he's trying to rob him and stuff like that. So he's getting his hand into this guy's pockets. He has his arm right here and stuff like that. Because he basically fell, he's trying to make himself look like he fell forward onto this guy, like he tripped. Well, he's really trying to rob him. And so like that. And so like that. Get this here. Damn it. I screwed that up. Luckily, I can just erase this part. Not too bad there. Let me erase this a bit. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Yeah, not bad at all, is it? Yeah. I'm more or less done with this guy over here, folks. We'll forget to put the ear in. Yeah, after all, his head basically fell underneath his arm, into his armpit and stuff like that. As I say, he's trying to basically rob him. He's basically falling on top of him. Sorry, but he's basically going like, sorry, I tripped. Sorry, forgive me. He's basically trying to, rip his wallet out of his pocket and stuff like that. So you see his hands going up under his coat over there, under the guy's coat. So you have that. If you want to know, folks. This is just another character in my book, Supreme Strike Force. He's an important character because he basically helps kick off the plot of basically what happens in my book, Supreme Strike Force. As I said, it's basically a superhuman, basically a cop drama with superheroes and stuff like that, being police officers. They're actually a small police unit and stuff like that within the police force in New Pearl City. Either way, this guy kicks off the plot of basically what's going to happen here by being robbed by this guy, which sets off the following events where basically the Supreme Strike Force gets involved. Either way, as I said, you get the idea. Now, for people watching, folks, let me go over here, see if any more people have joined us. Okay, we have 20 people watching. We have 35 people watching, folks. We have, we have 35 people. We have 36, 37 watching. We have 38 watching. Not bad, folks. In fact, I might watch another live stream because I'm basically still want to do some more drawing after this latest video is finished. So let's get back to it again now.
You problems you believe, but in actuality, those who control everything are laughing at you. You are given an illusion of control, of a solution that is being met, and it's just that. A simple, basic illusion. A consensual hallucination granted to you by someone with a vested interest to manipulate you. You are in that matrix now if you buy anything these people are selling you.
Protect more, earn more, achieve more.
But if anyone sells something to you like, or should I say, if anyone's selling an idea along your lines, your political views, then it's all right, Anthony? As I said, you can argue basically the same thing back at Anthony as he's arguing to us, folks. His ideas are good, but not, it's his own political views, folks. Either way, let's get back to the video now,
Anything these people are selling you. Do you want to know what's really cyberpunk? True modern-day cyberpunk? People who create programs that cause generative AI systems, the machine learning, to collapse upon itself, to poison the learning models. It's people who find solutions to the energy crisis that involves less energy being consumed, less pollution being sent out, and potentially preserving the environment. Punk now is fighting against the systems that want to keep things the way they.
You mean like basically trying to trans people, folks? Yeah. Punk is about fighting against the systems that are in place. Those systems basically are, things that basically Anthony here doesn't realize that basically are doing more harm. As I said, like transiting children, and people just raise them saying, no, you shouldn't do that. No matter how much basically Anthony or basically along the lines of basically say, no, we're punk, we're right. No, your idea is wrong. You're even spouting basically the public, basically lamestream media's idea of it, the popular idea. That's not punk. You yourself said that basically, a punk is the ones who rise up against the power. The one you can't be punk if you're in the majority. Well, I think you're basically right and wrong. The majority of people don't want their children trans or have basically these bad things being done. They don't want basically unlimited immigration, stuff like that. No, they don't. well, the people basically wanting to come into the country basically want to get here. But even though, well, people who've immigrated before don't want all these people, these random idiots coming in, destroying everything, folks. So yeah, I think basically even the majority would basically write about this. But then again, mainstream media basically are saying that we should have unlimited immigration. We should trench children. We should do everything we want because we're idiots and we're stupid and we're being paid to basically see these things. And Anthony here basically seems to go, just doesn't quite realize that basically maybe the popular idea, what he thinks is the punk idea, isn't punk anymore. I mean, for God's sakes. He just doesn't seem to get that basically that he might be wrong. Once again, folks, let's get back to the video.
They are working against conformity and stagnation to make things better. We are currently living in a system of high technology and low life. Today is the cyberpunk reality that Neuromancer presented.
It's getting there, folks. He does basically have some points about that. He is right that basically a lot of rich people are doing things, and what's really silly is that they are literally got people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and other, well, basically, let me just, Mark Zuckerberg. Let me go over here, folks, like that. Bob Iger and basically, let's see, what's his name over here, folks? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Bill Gates, Bill Gates. These guys don't quite know what they're doing. They're just causing people to get harm. Yeah. They just don't realize that they're actually doing anything wrong. Bill Gates, though, is more on the evil side of things, folks. So he probably thinks he's doing right as long as he's making money and getting power. Basically, I think he's basically on the evil side of things. Elon Musk and Musk is basically naive. Mark Zuckerberg is basically, well, he's just an android, and we're not quite sure basically if he's not just following orders by whoever is actually controlling them. Yeah, I know he probably isn't really an android, folks. He just acts like one. But you get the idea there. He is on, well, is he basically the naive or just the true believer? He might be evil, like Bill Gates. Bill Gates might actually just be a believer, just thinks that, yeah, I'm right. And, well, if reality actually hit him in the face, he might actually die of a heart attack. Mark Zuckerberg might be the evil one. I don't know. But I get the feeling that basically there's a chance that Elon Musk is evil. Yes. But he seems to be really on the naive side of things, folks, a true believer. That could basically be worse than the other ones because he might want to see his view of what the world will be no matter what. No, I'm right. Not to mention the owner of of Amazon might be just as bad. That bald guy. Yeah, they might be true believers, and that might be worse because they almost have a religious. Well, maybe they don't have a religious reverence to transhumanism, folks, like some idiots, but some people do treat it like a religion, which is really horrible. So there's that. As I said, folks, let's get back to this video and finish it off now, huh?
The only difference is we do not have
another commercial, folks. Let me skip it.
Punk now is fighting against the systems that want to keep things the way they are, working against conformity and stagnation to make things better. We are currently
the leftists basically what you basically think that punk is leftist views, and they want basically things to be what you want and stuff like that. But a lot of people are fighting against it and doing that, and somehow we're not the punk ones because you have all, even though we have literally at times no power, and you think that no, you're evil because you're basically a conservative, therefore you must be evil. Because I can't be evil at all, no matter what, because I'm right no matter what. Do you think that Anthony here goes to bed thinking, I'm right no matter what, I'm right? I hope not. He doesn't seem to have that as much self-awareness as basically he purports to have. I mean, he says it seems that he has a lot of self-awareness, but he doesn't seem to have any. Once again, let's get back to the video.
Living in a system of high technology and low life. Today is the cyberpunk reality that Neuromancer presented. The only difference is we do not have a massive sprawl, but we do have corporations that own everything. We don't have the consensual hallucination of the net, but we do have social media that becomes a replacement for living your life, where algorithms decide your opinion for you, where a change in the algorithm will change entire cultures unless we circle around the ideas that mean a lot to us, that we continue to push, that we continue to focus and spread the creativity that we want to see in the world. Because as you can see already, people can take the wrong idea from fiction. They can take the wrong idea from cyberpunk media.
Yeah, you are right. That's another point he has about there, folks. It said Elon Musk took the wrong idea. But Anthony here is probably also putting people basically on the right side of things. They took you're fighting against transing kids. That's not punk. No, we should trans children and stuff like that. We should do whatever we're told because those are basically follow what basically these lamestream talking heads say. They're the ones who are basically punk because we're doing the right thing because this guy basically is partially in the 20th century and basically what happened with basically with progressive views from basically back in the 90s, but also basically purporting ideas that basically he thinks are punk because everyone tells him that they're punk. So maybe you shouldn't go around transing children. You shouldn't basically unlimited immigration to the country. But he'll say opposite because, no, that's not punk. We need to have all that. We need to basically do that, even though it'll destroy the country because he doesn't seem to think that America has limits, that we don't need all these millions of people in here.
But they cannot take away the punk. But for as much as they ignore it, those who resonate...
They can't take away the punk. You're the ones who want to take it away. But that's not going to basically happen. The real punks are the ones who keep fighting no matter what. This guy just basically seems to sprout ideas. Though, as I said, a lot of his ideas are good. He just basically doesn't seem to have self-awareness that maybe they or he himself could be wrong, that maybe his views could be wrong. But a lot of his ideas are true, folks. That's amazing. Someone can be right and wrong at the same time.
With the message will continue to reject the status quo and push and push and push. Counterculture has always existed no matter what nightmare world you live in. And counterculture, no matter how hard people try to fight, will continue.
Yeah, very out there, isn't it, folks? Get a fight no matter what. Well, it does sound good, doesn't it? But, as I said, he doesn't seem at times to realize that he might be wrong. Now, just a moment, looks like to do something real quick. I drop something on the floor. I'm trying to make sure I got it. Maybe not. Yeah, as I said, let's get back to the video again, folks. As I said, I have another video you might want to watch as well. Sorry about that, folks. Where are you? Where are you? Video. Damn it. You're here somewhere. Where are you? How annoying. I might have to basically back up on some stuff. Either way, I'll find that video. It's another good one, folks. Yeah, because I might not want to basically stop drawing today because, yeah, we're doing pretty well. Looks, my figures here are really looking good, aren't they, folks? Either way, yeah, let's get back to this video again.
Graffiti has always existed even in the most intense regimes because street art is a way of self-expression. When all avenues are closed, people find a way. I want to close out this video with a quote from Ursula K. Le Guin. Le Guin famously wrote a short story called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, where a society continues to run, a paradise even, but it only can function if one person is left in deplorable conditions. If one soul is tormented and tortured and left alone in a basement, shackled, starved, then the rest of society can live just peacefully. But they all have to function, knowing what's going on. They have to walk on streets knowing that below their feet one soul suffers. And those who walk away can no longer stomach the pain. They reject the paradise in faith that something better exists, or in protest of the horror. Le Guin, I think, had a great line. Le Guin, in her acceptance speech for the National Book Foundation's medal, had this powerful statement that I think sums up everything I just said better than I ever could. Here's the quote.
Books aren't just commodities. The profit motive is often in conflict with the aims of art. We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable, but then again, so did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art. Very often in our art, the art of words.
I've seen the video, folks.
There are 3 kinds of methylene blue that you
basically need to get in my face right there, didn't it? Either way, that is certainly some of the ideas, isn't it, folks? And out there. As I said, I kind of don't want to basically, leave you hanging here. Look at this panel. Doesn't it look great, folks? And it looks really good. Isn't it? You're trying to basically draw in the fingernails here. Yeah, not bad there. Maybe do this. Otherwise, it looks pretty damn good. Yeah, got to get this over here. I can start working on this character's head. Right now, it's just basically a no face. Either way, his arm's over here. This guy fell on top of him. In fact, I should probably do this. Is he like that? Basically. Yeah. Maybe work on these pants a bit more. Either way, it's coming along very swimmingly. I keep using swimmingly. It's coming along fine and great, actually. This. Yeah, basically worked on his this a bit. As I said, Anthony has some great ideas, folks, and his video was good. But you can't basically say that. It seems like to me, folks, he thinks he's right no matter what, which seems to be a real leftist problem. He brought nothing but the truth here, folks, I have to say, but he just doesn't seem to basically get it, that he himself may be his views might be wrong. But what about me? What about my views on this, folks? I just want people to be happy. I want basically to be free. And I certainly don't want to basically live in a world where basically we basically are slaves. But Anthony says the same thing, but he doesn't quite get that maybe his view could be wrong. That, could my view be wrong, folks? Sure, and stuff like that. But I just, as I said, my view is basically I don't want corporations controlling us. I don't want us to trench children. I don't want unlimited immigration to the country. I don't want to live in a one-world nation, because that will just basically make sure that the whole world is crap, folks, that we won't have freedom at all. But Anthony here doesn't seem to realize that fact. He seems to think that basically, as long as basically some people he respects our punks basically say that trenching children is right, it seems to basically be all right. Unless that's actually his view, folks, then I basically feel very sad for Anthony. Because trenching children could basically do nothing but kill people and stuff like that. Kill these children, stuff like that, returning them and stuff like that, which is something you should not do at all. Either way, folks, I'm trying to find this other video. Where could it be and stuff like that. Is it this video actually, or what? Try to find it. Like this. Like that. And get back to where I was. Maybe I'll be right back here, folks. No, actually, I'm not leaving just like that. I'm just saying this. Either way, I kind of don't want to stop this live stream just yet. As I said, if I do that, I probably won't basically upload my videos because it's already getting late, but I'm already so far into this drawing right here, folks. I kind of want to show it to you as it basically ends. Either way, it looks better than the last drawing like that, far better. Either way, I have to find this other video. Let me go over here, folks, and I'll get back to where I was later. This ain't it. Where are you? It's another site. It's another Cyberpunk video, folks, and it's really good too. Well, it looks interesting. It's basically asking how far are we basically, how far has the world basically turned, folks? Have we become more like basically a cyberpunk dystopia or what? Yeah, here it is, folks. Now, let me share this in tab instead. Now, how much of Cyberpunk 2077 has already happened? How close are we to basically living in a world like Cyberpunk 2077? Will we basically become cyborgs? Will the world become hell? Certainly with what's happening with basically various corporations, folks, in the government, I can see that point happening. It's really sad. So let me go over here, folks, and basically do this. Yeah, basically look at this. Yeah. Oh, there's that right there. Let me go over here, folks. Yeah, let me do this. I guess right here. Oh, come on. I'll get that video up in a moment. And then we'll listen to that a bit and stuff like that about how close the world is to becoming an actual cyberpunk dystopia, folks. Sorry about that. Here we are. All right. Yeah, right here. Do this. Mute that.
Amazing and has cool life improving technology. It's
Where's the
important to
volume
remember
in
that
this
it's a
thing?
complete dystopia. We don't need to look too close to see that. It's out in the
I don't hear
open,
any
from the
volume in it.
hyperconsumerism to vast corporate
Just a moment,
overreach
folks, I'll get
to
this in a
failing, if
moment.
not non-existent government.
I know
And
what
of
I'm
course,
doing
the
wrong. Let me
massive
do that
amounts
in a
of
moment.
crime. That would be a
This
hell
right
that
over here.
nobody would want to live in.
This right
But we
here,
kind of already
stuff like
do.
that.
Almost word for word, we're seeing the beginning
And yeah,
stages
now
of
I
the
know what to
cyberpunk
do.
universe play out in front of our very eyes. From the military world,
There,
we're
over
seeing the
there.
beginning
And yeah,
stages
now
of
I
the
know what to
cyberpunk
do. Here
universe
we are.
play out in front of our very eyes. From the
There.
military world,
There,
we're
over
seeing the
there.
beginning
And
stages of the
yeah.
cyberpunk
Do
universe.
this tab instead. We got this right there. All right, not bad. Let's listen to this video, folks. Basically, it's asking how far the world has become. Well, how much of the world has become like Cyberpunk 2077, folks? So let's listen to it as I do a little more drawing. As I said, my drawings come along smoothly well. It looks good, but I don't want to stop just yet.
While a world like Cyberpunk 2077 looks amazing and has cool life-improving technology, it's important to remember that it's a complete dystopia. We don't need to look too close to see that. It's out in the open, from the hyper-consumerism to vast corporate overreach to failing, if not non-existent governments. And of course, the massive amounts of crime. That would be a hell that nobody would want to live in, but we kind of already do. Almost word for word, we're seeing the beginning stages of the cyberpunk universe play out in front of our very eyes. From the military actions to geopolitical policies and the extremely rapid development of technology. You might think that this is just an exaggeration, that is just fear-mongering or clickbait to make you afraid of Palantir or Neuralink, or just your standard Drew Gooden style video essay about the threats of capitalism and consumerism. But this goes well beyond just those topics, although we do discuss them at length because they are just as important in explaining the links between our universe and cyberpunks. They're in fact so intertwined that the parallels don't stop at economics or politics either. They show up in the smaller places too. There are many cultural similarities between our world and cyberpunks. For example, the kitsch fashion style in Night City was an accessible, optimism-filled form of self-expression that got co-opted into neo-kitsch by the rich and powerful. It's very similar to how most alternative styles in the real world are co-opted by the elite. Basically, being a poser exists in all universes, and for that reason, I think it's best to largely ignore culture for this video, as it would make sense that the lore was developed by satirizing or caricaturizing the real world. Instead, I think it's more important to explore the exact advancements and events that Mike Ponspit fabricated to explain how his world ended up so messed up, and how many of those things are happening or have already happened to us. And ultimately, I want to see how close we are to this dystopian future. And what I found was some pretty scary similarities. In fact, they're so similar, we can explore it chronologically and see the events basically line up one after the other. But before we do that, we first need to decide where to start our timeline. The official cyberpunk chronology on the wiki technically begins with the birth of Sasai Arasaka, the founder of and former CEO of Arasaka Corporation. Of course, there is no Arasaka in the real world, so for the actual value of this video, let's skip all the way to 1989, an important year for many reasons. The Cold War has just ended, and George H.W. Bush is the president, just like he was in our timeline. But in the game's timeline, this is the year the Gang of Four forms to secretly run the United States of America, essentially the deep state. Now, the presence of a deep state isn't explicit in our universe, but it's not necessarily some crazy schizoid conspiracy either. Here we are in the year 2026, and we can take all the things that have come out recently from a particular power broker and financier's evidence files, and also consider the current US president has referenced and acknowledged the deep state multiple times as working against him. Now, I don't know if any of this is actual confirmation that the deep state exists, but we can certainly say that there is at this point more evidence for than against, which is really scary. Just for some more context, the deep state in the real world is allegedly a secret coalition within the US federal government, primarily composed of members of the FBI and CIA. There's also said to be a clandestine network of conspirators who work within the leadership of the financial and industrial sectors to exercise power alongside the elected government officials. In the cyberpunk universe, the deep state is confirmed and was originally composed of the Gang of Four, the leaders of the FBI, CIA, NSA, and DEA, along with the executive branch's second in command, the vice president, Harold Harrison Hunt. They were motivated to take over the USA from the quote-unquote weak and gullible president James Richard Allen, which is exactly what Trump alleges the real deep state wants to do. The similarities go even further because in the game's universe, we see that the vice president conspires to overthrow several countries in South America with the goal of expanding US influence while also taking control of food and raw materials for their corporate clients. Food was especially important in the game's universe since it was starting to get scarce, but the hunt for raw materials exists both in the real and fictional universe. The Gang of Four brought in the Attorney General to provide the necessary justification to destabilize the target nations, their favored one being that the countries they seek to liberate are supporting drug smugglers and other external criminal/terrorist organizations. This obviously brings in the FBI and the DEA. In the game's universe, and I'm sorry for constantly clarifying because the lines between reality and fiction are starting to blur a lot, but in the game's universe, the CIA's primary concern was the growing independence of South and Central American nations, due to the fact that they were carving out their own economic paths, and as a result, they threatened the lucrative captive markets of several powerful US-based corporations. At this point, companies like Arasaka, Militech, and Petrochem are already beginning to expand rapidly, developing their private armies, intelligence networks, and most importantly, their cyberware. The CIA, meanwhile, was employing rebel terrorist groups to destabilize the hostile nations, with their justification being to keep socialist forces from gaining control. Now, unless you're living under a rock, you should already know that this is pretty much exactly what's going on in the real world. Venezuela and now Ecuador have had military interventions by the United States. Thankfully, they didn't do any large-scale attacks despite a massive show of force. Instead, they had a very well-organized, quick operation to capture Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro.
Good.
Trump's administration alleges that he's a narco-terrorist and needs to be stopped. So they quickly swoop in and essentially kidnap him, allowing for a president who is more favorable to the United States to be quote-unquote elected. Of course, throughout all of this, the US has been extracting oil and paving the way for the US companies to build new infrastructure to gather said oil. Whether or not Maduro was a narco-terrorist, I'll leave up to you to decide. But it is, frankly, painfully obvious that the US wasn't just there to fight the war on drugs. They wanted Venezuela's oil, and possibly even more importantly, they wanted to maintain control. Without getting too into it, the Monroe Doctrine, referred to by the Trump administration as the Monroe Doctrine, essentially states that the Western Hemisphere is considered by the USA to be their backyard. And back in the day, it was used to basically tell the USSR to fuck off. But in modern times, the threat is China. Venezuela, despite US sanctions and pressure, was greatly supported by China, from infrastructure to technology to simply being a good customer for Venezuelan oil. That allowed Venezuela to basically have a separate economy away from the US influence. And similar to Cyberpunk, it was unacceptable for South and Central America to move away from the US, as it would greatly weaken the hegemony of the United States. Chile and Bolivia are other countries that in the real world are in good relations with China and sell them a lot of minerals, specifically lithium. They were also attacked by the USA in Cyberpunk's universe. In the game, the CIA armed and financed separatist groups to gain access to the lithium deposits within them. Furthermore, Chile and Ecuador collapsed due to anti-drug crop bioweapons, something that Monsanto and now Bayer have been accused of using in the real world. Hopefully our world doesn't get to the level of Cyberpunk's, and what happened in Venezuela is the last of it. And I wouldn't worry, because thankfully now it seems to have stopped there. But in the game, it carries out to being proper guerrilla warfare between several South American countries and the United States. They were known as the drug wars. Eventually, this leads to a small nuclear suitcase being detonated in the New York financial district, killing 15,000 people, not to mention the injuries and the radiation. The troubles just doesn't end there, though. In 1994, the Gang of Four's crimes were exposed by the European Union. And at this point, the EU already established the European Economic Community, creating the Eurodollar, something that threatens the existence of the United States dollar, and thus the hegemony of the United States. After several years of careful investigation by Interpol, the US government was formally charged with stock manipulation and money laundering, since the gang was investing money raised from covert black market US arms sales that was not only used to support rebel groups, but also line their own pockets. This was done without any congressional oversight. Alongside that, they created umbrellas of holding companies through which they brought down the European and Asian stock exchanges to combat the secondary economies from forming. And this overreach is why the EU was suspicious of them to begin with. All of this leads to the total crash of the world stock market, known as the crash of '94, since the public markets typically don't like finding out their money is being manipulated by lizard people. Of course, this led to a major economic depression, and within 2 years, the country was overwhelmed with homelessness, unemployment, and of course, more corruption, as that's usually how things go. A lot of city governments declared bankruptcy and the country went into total chaos. In this era, 1 in 4 people were homeless, and of course, that led to massive riots across the country. To combat this, in the game, home dissidents were pacified when they were labeled enemies of the state by the FBI. During this time, the agency would basically be spying on people for the Gang of Four, providing them with wiretapping, intelligence, and covert surveillance of targets throughout the USA. As a result of this, the FBI became completely caught up in this grand conspiracy and began to employ a separate mercenary army of federal agents to control resistive states. Bear in mind, rioting and civil unrest was at an all-time high. I mean, the president, James Richard Allen, was assassinated. Millions were homeless, and martial law was basically implemented all across the country. They also introduced shoot-on-sight curfews in many major cities like New York and Chicago. In these times, the streets of many cities across the United States were covertly regulated by many private paramilitary services provided by megacorps and federal forces.
I mean, this video is doing some good things here, folks, but it's basically more just a bit. It's basically just. It appears to basically just be well, a lore video on Cyberpunk 2077, but it is basically bringing up some good points here. How our own world is becoming like this. It's disturbing, isn't it, folks? So there's that. So should I continue watching this? Because I'm kind of getting bored. I mean, it's interesting, but it's more or less just a lore video. Like the last video, the game came up with some good points there, folks. So maybe I'll watch it a bit more because we're nearly done with this particular panel. As you can see, I'm trying to get his face looking right here, folks. It looks pretty good. Like that. But yeah. Should I watch the entirety of the video? Maybe. Maybe, folks. By the way, we have 31 people watching. Okay, that's 31, 37 people watching. 38, 39. 40 people watching, folks. Yeah, thank you for making this a wonderful live stream. So maybe I should continue because we have quite a few people watching right now. Either way, yeah, I want to kind of finish off this particular video and stuff like that. So let me do that. Well, I'm going to finish off this particular panel for my page here for Supreme Strike Force. So let's get back to it again.
Such as the DEA and Immigration and Naturalization Services. They were unidentifiable due to the lack of uniforms or badges, and they contributed heavily to the belief that the United States government had been turned into a gang of thugs, causing many local governments and their allies to protest and resist. Once again, unless you're living under a rock, you would know that this is eerily similar to what's happening in the United States right now. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, has been roaming around US cities specifically hunting down illegal immigrants.
You mean how basically, unlike that, folks, we need to have unlimited immigrants into this country. We need to basically lose everything that makes America great by basically just pucking it so full of immigrants that the entire country falls apart, that we won't be America anymore? No, we need the ICE folks and stuff like that. But the fact that we do have armed people running around, much like basically much like back in the back lore of Cyberpunk, is kind of disturbing and stuff like that. That we have armed forces basically doing this. But the thing is, folks, if we don't, we're just not we can't protect our borders. So there's that. It's quite the conundrum, isn't it? But the fact that it looks similar to something to a fictional universe like Cyberpunk is funny in that instance. But after all, Cyberpunk is fiction. Unfortunately, it looks like the world basically seemingly becoming like a Cyberpunk, dystopia, folks, which is what I find bad. Oh, let's get back to the video,
Uniformed usually, sometimes they're in completely unmarked cars and plain clothes, but they are almost always operating with their faces covered. And while their general purpose is to find illegal immigrants, does not stop them from wrongfully arresting citizens. Largely because they have full authorization to racially profile anyone who looks like they don't belong and ask them for their papers.
Of course, that's what they're doing. I've heard the opposite, folks, but they are going after basically illegal immigrants, and that's fine. Stuff like that. But is that really what they're doing and stuff like that? Or is this guy just spouting an idea about what he thinks is right? What basically ICE is doing? Either way, let's go back to the video and stuff like that. I'm basically turned it off and like that because basically what I'm hearing is just making me angry and stuff like that.
Protests between citizens and ICE have turned lethal on more than one occasion. The thug-like
basic thug
branding is used often by
thug branding. You mean like that one lesbian woman who tried to basically run off her that ICE agent and he shot her and she died? Yeah, well, she was going to run him over with her car. I think he had a right to do so. Yeah, thug is right for basically people are protesting the ICE and stuff like that. Not to mention they've been killing them, trying to kill them. Never forget that fact as well, folks.
Critics of ICE, and whether you agree to that or not, it is hard to not at the very least consider it as a paramilitary organization.
Well, they are a paramilitary organization. They have to be because they have to go and get basically these illegal immigrants. They're trying to get them out of the country so that America won't have to deal with basically with the criminals here. If they want to come here, they need to come here legally. So there's that. That's not bad. That's very good, huh? Now, this video is kind of making me angry and stuff like that, so maybe I should end it and stuff like that. I mean, the last guy, he was making me angry, but not as much as this, folks. This guy just seems to basically be, sprouting lamestream media, theatrics, not basically saying about what's going on. I mean, he did bring up the fact that where you stand on this, that's fine, but we do have a paramilitary organization working basically freely on America's streets. Well, maybe we didn't have so many illegal immigrants, we wouldn't have the need for it. Either way, this looks good. Though maybe I should work more on the face a bit. but we're not quite done with it either. Let's see. Yeah, there's that as well. Either way, yeah, maybe I shouldn't watch the rest of that video, but it is annoying. Maybe just a few more minutes and see where it goes and stuff like that, because it's just generally making me angry.
That serves the current administration first rather than some national duty of safety. They almost exclusively target blue cities, and Trump's administration has openly stated they are liberating these cities from the socialist forces.
Yep, they are. Because all the socialist forces, all they're doing is basically having illegal criminals coming here 24/7. They need to be sent out. They need to basically go home. That's what needs to happen. So there's that too.
There are numerous sources that allege that ICE has partisan motivations explicitly designed to punish jurisdictions that do not assist in federal immigration efforts. Once again, this goes beyond just curbing illegal immigration. And even then, there is a right and a wrong way of handling things. And secret police throughout history has been...
Secret police. They're secret police, huh? I don't think they're secret police. They're the freaking ICE. They're here to basically do a job and get rid of illegal immigrants. They're certainly not like basically other secret police like that existed in basically Nazi Germany or in Russia. Because I think they basically didn't, you couldn't even say their names out loud in those cases, folks. ICE is a public organization. And calling them like that, folks, what a bloody lie. But the fact that, as I said, we have working militaries doing stuff, we have basically, even he brings up the fact that Trump has been having to deal with the deep state. Well, they're the ones who basically are saying they don't want ICE doing their jobs. They want basically as many illegal immigrants here as possible so they can bring about their own bullshit about the way the world works. No, actually, no, not really. They just want power. That's it. Either way, this looks like a fantastic panel, doesn't it? For the comic panel here, folks. Look at that. Huh? Yeah, it looks fantastic. Really has some real weight here as well. Ooh. Yeah, I should probably be doing this. Yeah, it looks good. Now that nose, though, I guess I could work on it a bit more. I see it doesn't look quite right the way I want it, but it is coming along good. Either way, I'll probably end this live stream very soon, folks, after I finish off this nose. So I can get back to this video and can talk a bit more. Either way, this guy, this guy is just spouting. Oh, damn. Broke it. Do this. Yeah, this guy's just spouting the public mainstream media bias and stuff like that. Does he basically even know what he's talking about here, folks? His real point here is that basically he's trying to say how much basically the world's become like Cyberpunk and stuff like that, 2077. I think the last guy did a better job of saying that, how basically the world looks like a dystopia and how the elites are just making it like that. Rather than this guy basically is bringing up points. I mean, he's just basically saying this, basically following the... No, not again. Damn it. It's making me so angry that I'm basically breaking my pencil lead here. Let me try that again. Trying to get this. It's sometimes sticking, but it is making me angry, folks. It is making me angry and stuff like that. Let's see, that looks almost about right. Either way, yeah. This guy, basically THO, this video basically is saying that a lot of things that are happening have basically come about basically in the Cyberpunk 2077 universe. Yeah, but he's not really telling about how people are doing this, how the people doing political activity are basically farming this, like Elon Musk, or basically, Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, how they're doing this stuff, folks. They're basically manipulating political things, not to mention that he did mention the deep state, which are also basically opposing the president, the duly elected leader. He doesn't realize it. He's basically outright just spreading propaganda rather than basically the other guy. I mean, the other guy basically was bringing up points, and they were good, and he was basically aggravating, but at least his points actually had merit. Either way, there's that. So that's what I was saying. Not quite yet either. This right here. Yeah, I just need to work on this nose. Otherwise, this panel is completely done, folks. Maybe I won't watch the rest of this video. I could bring up another video from Purple Swim talking about cyberpunk, basically particularly cities, and basically how they affect people, stuff like that. I figured that basically it was another video we could look at basically for such a live stream. Either way, I'm doing an extra long live stream because they're probably basically not loading videos today. Again, folks, I'm going to get back, but don't worry, I will get back to my pattern soon enough. But this nose here is what I'm working on here right now. Either way, it is coming along swimming. Well, it's coming along great. The rest of this panel looks great, folks, and there's basically plenty of room for word bubbles. So yeah, there's that. But the nose here, I'm just trying to work on it just right. If I can just get it just right over here. Damn, no, that's not right either. Either way, it is coming along good, folks. Either way, this guy's having his pocket picked by this bald guy who thought he was an easy mark. Either way, these events will basically set off the rest of the events in the book, folks. And you'll learn about it just enough. Damn, that don't look right. I'm trying to basically get this nose just right here. Either way, yeah, it's coming along. I just need to get the nose just right. It wasn't just good enough. The nose before was fine, but he didn't really look the way I wanted my character to look. Maybe I should work on this part instead. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, it doesn't look right. I could do the whole nose again. Too far over as well, I think. Let's see. If I do this like this. Like this. If I can just get right here, a little nudge right there. Better, but not quite what I want either. Sorry about this, folks. Finding a nose here. So either way, we can stay basically doing this until I finish off the nose here. Either way, this maybe I'll get back to this video in a moment. But either way, it is, as said, making me angry. And when I do this. Either way, I have a good piece of paper, so it's not going to tear anytime soon. This is a good point about basically using this paper here. It's nice and sturdy and strong, so I can basically keep working on this nose till I get it right. Either way, maybe if I just keep erasing a bit, maybe a little more erasure when I'm done, and get this right. Let's see. Try to get this just right. Yeah, that looks a bit better. better. I did this right here. Yeah. Hmm. Maybe. Damn, let's maybe 1, 2, 4 over here. Let's get this right here. I'm basically erasing too much. Yeah, the last, well, do this right here. Maybe do this right here a bit. Try not to drop the pencil again, huh? I basically broke a bunch of lead on this. Damn. Almost there. If I just get this just right. Yeah. Let me try that again. Yeah. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe erase this nudge right here. Trying to work on the nose here, folks. Right here. If I just make it like this. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Yeah, not bad there. If I do erase a bit more, maybe need a better eraser because this one's nearly, maybe not really. It's getting there though. Let's see. Maybe not. As I said, it's coming along swimmingly. I'll probably end this live stream as soon as I basically finish off this guy's nose, folks. Hope you're enjoying this. Maybe I should talk about my book, folks. Remember, go over to Indiegogo and check out my, campaign that's in pre-launch mode, Scumdogs. Scumdogs is a parody of 80s and 90s cartoons and comics. It's just a fun parody of those searcher shows we used to watch when we were kids, like G.I. Joe and Transformers. It stars the Scumdogs, who are basically, former pro athletes who had superpowers. They competed in the Scumdog sports. Superhumans were superhuman athletes, monsters and superhuman, beings that competed for fame and fortune. The Scumdogs competed as monsters, but were booted and banned from the sporting events and decided to use their vast powers to take over the world. They fight their arch enemies, the Wild Rangers, and particularly their leaders of both factions, Death Mug with basically the Scumdogs and Buick Starpoon, who's the leader of the Wild Rangers. They hate each other, and they get into epic battles parodying comics and cartoons from the 80s and 90s. Either way, my comic book is great. It has the Scumdogs out there, this super powerful MacGuffin that will give Death Mug ultimate power, and Buick Starpoon is the only one, and his team are the only ones who can stop them. Unfortunately, they don't really care. Particularly Buick Starpoon doesn't really care. He just wants to basically look good in front of the newspapers and pick up chicks, while Death Mug basically is a complete and utter egomaniac. Watch these two idiots fight each other in my comic book, or should I say, read about their antics in the comic book Scumdogs. So basically, look for the campaign up on Indiegogo, folks. Scumdogs Second Chance campaign. Sign up for it. In a few months, I actually launched a real campaign. I will also, folks, by the way, start campaigns up on GoFund my comic book and Kickstarter. So look for those campaigns as well. So I was making sure you all could hear that. Either way, that's my campaign up on there, folks. Right now, though, I'm working on my new comic book, Supreme Strike Force. As I said, it's all about basically in New Portal City, these superhuman police officers that combat superhuman crime that basically enters the city. Either way, it'll look good, folks. Either way, let me do this as well. Might be maybe a way to save this right here. Let's do this. No, I guess I need to brace it a bit more. Yeah, that's good. If we do this right here. No. My problem with this, folks, is that I'm worried that he looks too much like the hero of the Inkle, another comic book character, folks. Yeah, he had a big, the character had basically a kind of a nose. Had a kind of big, well, not a super huge nose, but he had a sort of nose that looks the way I'm drawing him right now, right here with this panel. Not bad, yeah. Yeah, either way, this looks pretty good. Yeah. I can work on this a bit more later, I guess. Either way. Not bad with what we have here. In fact, I should probably do this right now. Then again, maybe I should do the nose one last time because I'm an idiot. I don't want this live stream to end, apparently. Let me try this again, folks. Like that. Yeah. I screw up again. Either way, we have as much time as I need to, folks. This live stream is not done yet. I just want to finish off this nose here before I go. And stuff like that. If I can just get it just right. There. Maybe if I do this right here. It's too big. Once again, let's erase and redo this. I should also basically deepen the lines because apparently they're not doing so well. And let me sharpen again, folks. Either way, yeah. Either way, Supreme Strike Force is a good-looking comic book. You can basically look for it. Well, Supreme Strike Force isn't done yet, folks, so you're not going to basically get it for it until I'm finished with it. Either way, the events we're seeing right now basically set off the other events in this comic book, folks, in which is, well, Supreme and police officers of Supreme Strike Force have to deal with it. Now, the book stars basically Cherry, well, Hardtop 2 Hammer, who's basically on her first day on the force as an intern for basically Supreme Strike Force. You see, she's trying to get her dad, who's basically Captain Hammer, the leader of the Supreme Strike Force, the literal police captain of his unit, folks. To basically take her on. See, she has to be, he has to take her on because basically she graduated from high school at the top of her class, and so she won basically of her class, but she was also basically enrolled in the superhuman enlistment and training program, which means that she won the right to train with any government affiliated superhero team. And Supreme Strike Force, while they are police officers, they're still considered basically a superhero team and stuff like that. So he has to take her. Either way, Cherry Hammer here basically is trying to get her father to train her, and he doesn't like it. Either way, he's now though basically decided to take her out on her first day of as a trainee, an intern, and he's going to show her how boring basically being a police officer actually is. Unfortunately, thanks to events with basically what's happening here with this guy being mugged, Cherry Hammer's first day of on the force is going to be anything but ordinary. And maybe the events will basically show her father that she basically has what it takes to be a hero. It's certainly an interesting idea. It certainly is an idea. But will she basically show her father, or will she not be able to do it? That's the question. Read about this book. Read my book when it's finally finished. Either way, it looks good. Well, maybe this last nudge right here. If I can just get it just right. Maybe a little shadow under the nose a bit. Not bad. Maybe a little eraser right here. I can just get this one little nudge without erasing too much, but I don't want to erase. We should get another piece of paper, another piece of another eraser, a fresh one, perhaps. Maybe do that again. That's not bad. You do this again. Almost there. As I said, folks, it's coming along good. I basically have the nose more or less done. Nice. Let's try that again. One more time. One more like that. Another color go. Not bad. Yeah, not bad. We need to basically work on the chin a bit more now. Now, another break. By the way, it is coming along great, isn't it? Nearly done with this. You see shock and surprise on the guy's face as he basically is being, well, as this guy falls on top of him. And when in reality, this bald guy here is robbing him. He's picking his pocket. This, as I said, will set off the events, which basically our character here interacts with Cherry Hammer and her father and the rest of the Supreme Strike Force, in which basically, literally, a disaster strikes. And stuff like that. So you get the idea. Now let's try this again with the, well, chin. Let me do this. Maybe not. I shortened the chin, so maybe it needs to basically be longer instead. It didn't look right to me. Almost. Maybe almost there. Almost, I guess. Yeah. Try that again. Don't look right. I was trying to make his hair fall over his head a bit, towards his chin, stuff like that. Maybe I should basically do this, erase over here, and then we can basically call it quits, perhaps. Okay, maybe not. Erase this a bit. I'm trying to basically make it look like hair instead of just a deep black blob, so it has to basically have flowing hair rather than this. Now this side, maybe if I work on this side a bit, like this. Maybe do this a bit. What time is it now? I have time. As I said, probably won't basically upload any videos today. Either way, we also have a chat from 7-year-old over old over true FM. AIviewersteamboat.com. Good for you. Either way, looks just about right. If I do this as well. Well, I could work on this later on and stuff like that. But what we have here looks very good. We have plenty of room for our word boxes, so that's great. I had dust on my hand. It gives you an idea. Go away. Yeah. How's that, folks? One little nudge there on the nose, and I think it looks bright. I think it looks pretty good. Maybe not. I'm trying to make his eyes look too bad at first. To this. Maybe like this. It does like that, folks. So I'm going to put a shadow here as well, basically to where it basically starts basically be unreasonable to see, because it basically is the shadow under the hair and stuff like that, trying to make it look right. Yeah, that looks about right, folks. Though, maybe working over here for a moment. Maybe not. Maybe not. That makes his head look too big. I was trying to basically get this right. Maybe right here. What do you think about that, folks? I think it looked better before, so maybe I need to lighten this up a bit more. Make his chin a little less pronounced and have it slanting his face over a bit. Yeah. Maybe. Cheeks are too big, perhaps. Trying to get this just right, folks. Yeah. Trying to get this just right. Also basically doing this. It's just right with this. Erase that part again. Maybe sharpen my pencil just another time. It is coming along great. Either way, I stopped watching that video because it was making me angry. He seemed to basically be saying that, well, blah, 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 blah. I mean, the last guy was making me angry, but his points were good and valid. This guy just seems to basically be reiterating things from basically news. It sounded like basically news and stuff like that, so it was making me kind of angry. That's why I kind of stopped watching the video. So if I was more entertained, just basically, doing my drawing right here, folks, while you can hear me. Right, let's see. I have this right here. Yeah. Though that other chin could be a problem. It looks somewhat good, but it could be better, perhaps. Maybe work over here a bit. This. That. Maybe again. Trying to get the space just right is the problem here, folks. Oh, how's that look, folks? Not to mention, I maybe need to brace right here a bit. Let's see, because he's basically has a. He's supposed to have a nick. That we have right here. Do this. Don't look right. Come on. Erase. Well, it doesn't look that right to me, folks. Some of you probably think it looks good. It's fine if you do. But you're not the one drawing this, are you? Not to mention, but your expertise, if you want to give your opinion, would be nice to hear about. That basically, that part does not look right. Might as well just go scorched earth and basically do this. Otherwise, it's coming along swimmingly. So I'm going scorched earth and then doing the root. This again. Okay, maybe do this right here. Redraw the nick and stuff like that. Maybe do this with the hair. Maybe if I can just get it just right. Now it looks too pronounced. I'm Christopher, folks, and it doesn't look too bad on the camera, but to me, like here, it doesn't look too right. This again. That. Erase the nick again because it's getting too dark and can't see what I'm doing. Yeah, because it needs to basically be tell that there's a nick there and not just basically a black blob. Right? Right, there's that. Looking good. Damn. I have that. The nose looks pretty good. Maybe I should move on to it. Well, maybe I should basically move on to this panel over here as I'm drawing and stuff like that and get back to this in a moment. I mean, I want it in my live stream, but maybe I'll take a moment to basically start drawing in this part over here now. Yeah. I'll get back to this other part later in a moment. Maybe. Either way, we have this now. By the way, folks, remember, after this live stream is over, I'm going to unlist this live stream. So remember that, okay? Yeah. You can keep watching this live stream up on YouTube. It's going to be unlisted on YouTube. You can keep watching it, but once it's unlisted, remember, if you click off of this live stream, there's a good chance you won't be able to click back onto it. So there's that. So remember that, folks. And stuff like that. But it will be available up on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. So you can use those links down below and go subscribe to me on my YouTube stream. Well, on those channels, you can subscribe to my channels on those websites up on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. But use those links down below or in descriptions to do so, because all my videos, all my streams are up on those sites 24/7. Okay. Either way, you should know that. Stuff like that. That don't look right, but it's maybe in the right position at least. Yeah. Either way, not bad. Not bad. See, what I'm having in this panel is this guy's head is under this guy's arm over here, but he basically gets his head over around his elbow and stuff like that. So now it's on the other side, so you can see his face. I mean, if it's not too likely, because this guy is struggling because this guy fell on top of him while the bald guy is trying to rob him. So his arm's kind of going up and under his head, basically at the next moment, trying to push him off. While this guy basically is trying to, rob him and stuff like that. So there's that. Either way, let's see, get this just right. A bit. Also, this other guy's elbow, which is basically right around here, folks, is basically trying to push him off. Trying to get it just right with this. Like that. Yeah. Not too bad there. It should be a bit bigger. Yeah, it looks about right. That goes there. Let's see here. Like this. Maybe, yeah, it probably should basically be. This should be right around here. His shoulder should be right around here. So right there. Let me get this just right. Yeah. Well, this other one is going over here. Yeah, it looks somewhat good. Just to get in the right position. Now, let me start adding some muscle for this guy's arm and elbow right here, folks. I can just erase it in a moment. Well, basically where the head is. Now do this right here and right here. That doesn't look too bad. And stuff like that. But maybe I should also connect it sort of here. Oh, we also going to have this right here. Should we need to sharpen this again? No, not just yet. And stuff like that. And remember, he's going to be wearing his jacket, so right. either way, this is coming. This draw stream's good, not my best. Actually, but it's pretty damn good. I think we have 40 people watching now and stuff like that. That's great. Let me do this right here. Yeah, where this guy's like this. So yeah, that would be the fabric would be coming down here. Oh, not again. Gotta be careful. Pencil lead is $10 for pencil lead, even though I get a lot of them and stuff like that for this. Ooh, you're not probably seeing that, are you? Maybe like that. Trying to get this just right. Either way, you're in an extra long live stream, and we're doing pretty good. Yeah. Either way, remember that, folks. By the way, as well, remember, there are, usually upload videos, but most likely I'm not going to upload videos today. I'll try to get back tomorrow to do that. Either way, I upload videos to Rumble, to YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. There's also videos you can check out up on, channels you should go and check out up on, basically, who you should check out. Mainly, you should check out Dark Sains up on YouTube and on BitChute. I have the BitChute link down below. There's also Robot Co-op, who you should basically go subscribe to up on Twitch. They also have a YouTube channel, folks, so check them out, Robot Co-op. And then there's Stitched Diggler Picks up on YouTube. Because if I'm doing this, folks, I might as well get into my usual spiel now and stuff like that. Either way, check those guys out. They have some great content. But remember, my own channels are up on YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. And you can use the links down below or in descriptions to go subscribe to me. And remember, I usually upload videos, and maybe I'll upload my videos today, folks. If I do upload my videos, one video will be up on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. And the other will be exclusive to Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. So look for these videos when they're up. Also, folks, is there anything else? Yeah. I'm going to do that later, folks. Yeah. I'm trying to get this right so I can keep drawing and stuff like that. I basically tried to move over to this panel over here, to this over here, folks. I'm trying to get this right. Either way, we had about 40 people watching, so that's damn good. We got this right here, folks. Trying to basically draw on where the fabric will basically be on this right here. So we have this tapering off. Yeah, maybe like a little like this, because it's gravity. Also need to draw on his pocket, which would be right around here, up on this guy's jacket, folks. I can maybe put some more details into it now. Yeah, all right, there's that. And this back of this guy's jacket over here, folks. Yeah, there's that. Either way, not bad there. Maybe we should also put some ruffles in, perhaps, maybe. Or maybe I should start erasing. Either way, maybe you go back over here. This guy's shin. I said to basically take a break from basically drawing this guy's shin and stuff like that real quick. But maybe I'll get back to this and in my live stream now. Yeah, do this right there. Well, this over there. Either way. Yeah, that looks about as good as I can get it, folks. How does that look? Not bad. We did pretty good with today's live stream. Either way, folks, we're pretty much at the end. I think that's good for this live stream. I have to do other stuff today. So, yeah, I already told you most of what I did, basically what you want to do, folks. So please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics they're bad for you. You use the links down below in descriptions to do so, okay? I already basically did my other stuff. I told you to basically go over to Indiegogo and check out the pre-launch page for my comic book Scumdogs. The name of the campaign is, remember, is Scumdogs Second Chance Campaign. And also remember, it's in pre-launch mode. So I already did everything else. I'll tell you that, folks. And remember, I'm going to I have blue on my nose. Jeez. Remember, I'm going to unlist this live stream up on YouTube, folks. But you can subscribe to me up on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute and watch this live stream there. But remember, this live stream is going to be unlisted soon, so there's that. Now, I'll probably upload my videos tomorrow, folks, but if I upload them today, you already remember where they're going to be. One video will be up on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute, and the other will be exclusive to YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. That's one video. The other will be exclusive to Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, or BitChute. That's if I upload those videos. Either way, folks, finally, we get to the final part. Stuff like that. What else? Should I say anything else? We did a pretty good live stream today, folks, talking about basically Cyberpunk and Cyberpunk posers. That one video, while that guy was aggravating, his video was good. He talked about various things like that and how Elon Musk and basically other guys like, Mark Zuckerberg, they're more or less cosplaying all this and making the world worse. Some of them, though, my opinion is this, folks. Some of them, including Bill Gates, some of them are evil. Maybe Bill Gates is evil, I'm not quite sure, but he generally basically comes off as more evil. He basically seemingly wants to become a rich oligarch and lord over people. That makes him evil, folks. But guys like Elon Musk and basically Mark Zuckerberg, the thing about them, folks, is that they fall into two other, maybe even worse categories. The naive idiot and the true believer. Now, I'm not quite sure about basically Mark Zuckerberg or, Elon Musk falling into that. They fall more into the naive moron instead of the true believer and stuff like that. But the true believer is someone who wants transhumanism. He wants all this cyberpunk stuff to happen. He wants the world to change. And basically, that is a scary thought, folks. And there are such people out there. Now, unfortunately, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, they fall into the more naive side of things. And that can be just as bad because they're trying to get these things out there, thinking that they'll, help the world, but they're making it worse. That's the thing. Either way, folks, that's my view on that video we watched today about Cyberpunk cosplayers. They just don't simply know what they're doing. But we're at the end. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great live stream and followed by videos, folks. So until then, as usual, folks, thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll have some more fun then. So until then, bye, folks. You've been great. Now, before I leave, folks, maybe I'll take another look. We had 4 people over here. How many people we have now? Okay, we have 17 people watching. Okay. 18? Yeah, 19, 20. Oh, yeah, indeed, folks. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. How many? Yeah, we had 17. Yeah. We had 18, 19, 20 over there, folks. Okay. Then we have 35. Oh, we had 39 people watching the day, folks. Damn good live stream. But we're at the end and stuff like that. So, yeah. Just a moment, folks. Yeah, there we go.